Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's 6 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock, and you are listening to The Drive on Super Talk. I am your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson, in for the next 4 hours. That's right, count them, 4 big hours of news and information you can use, and maybe along the way, a chuckle or two. That's what we try to do to keep it, we take the news seriously. We just don't take ourselves very seriously. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Big day in the swamp. I mean, literally in the swamp. Now, more on that in a moment, but Hunter Biden was supposed to show up today for a closed-door deposition. That's what the subpoena said. Come here, we want to ask you questions, and it's going to be sworn deposition, and we're going to ask you a lot of questions. And Hunter Biden, because he's so special, he just decided that he didn't want to go to the closed-door deposition. He wanted to do it another way. He wanted to go to a public hearing. And his lawyer said, yeah, he'll show up for a public hearing, but he's not going to go to your deposition. Well, I mean, the rules, that's just the whole problem with Hunter Biden. The rules don't apply to him. He's special. Everybody else who gets a subpoena has to come in for a deposition, but Hunter Biden decides he's going to set his own rules. Well, that's not quite the way it worked. So, the reason he wants to have a big public hearing is because, the Democrats will turn it into a big dog and pony show, and you don't really get as much information when, you get a 5-minute round of questions and Biden, Hunter Biden could sort of filibuster and not really answer the question and sort of run out the clock on the Republicans. And then the Democrats would come in to make a mockery of the process and try to, try to turn it into a big dog and pony show or circus. It'd be a circus with donkeys and elephants. It'd be a circus. And so, that's why they wanted him there. So Hunter Biden decided, well, I'm not going to go, but I am going to show up on Capitol Hill and have my own dog and pony show. So he shows up on the Senate side. More on that in a moment, why that is an important factor in this story. And here's Hunter Biden with his attorney, Abby Lowell, by his side, swarmed by reporters in a chaotic scene, talking on the Senate side of the Capitol.
I'm here today to answer at a public hearing any legitimate questions Chairman Comer and the House Oversight Committee may have for me. I'm here today to make sure that the House Committee's illegitimate investigations of my family do not proceed on distortions, manipulated evidence, and lies. Let me state as clearly as I can, my father was not financially involved in my business, not as a practicing lawyer, not as a board member of Burisma, not in my partnership with a Chinese private businessman, not in my investments at home nor abroad, and certainly not as an artist.
Well, certainly not as an artist, because he's not an artist. Set that aside. We'll let that one go. It was this line that caught the attention of the Republicans.
My father was not financially involved in my business.
I'm not financially involved in my business. That's every time somebody on that side of the equation, speaks, they change the line about how much Biden knew and what he was involved with. And now it's down to, yeah, he may have made some phone calls or got on the speakerphone. Yeah, he might have showed up for a dinner or two, but he was not financially involved in my business. That caught the attention of Jim Jordan, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee.
I think the biggest takeaway was the statement from Mr. Biden where he said, my father was not financially involved in the business. That is a huge change, which means he's involved. I think that's how anyone with common sense would read it. He's been involved, just not financially. That is a huge departure from everything they've said now for the last 3.5 years. So, as the chairman pointed out, the White House's story has changed multiple times. The Justice Department story has changed multiple times on how they handle this investigation. But the story that hasn't changed, the testimony that has been consistent and stood up to cross-examination, is the two whistleblowers. Their story has not changed, and frankly, it's been buttressed and reinforced by we've done 8 different depositions of people involved in the investigation at the Justice Department, the Hunter Biden investigation, and none of them have refuted what those guys say. So over time, it just keeps changing from the White House, and this statement today, I think, is the biggest news of the morning, I guess, along with the fact that he didn't show up, which he's supposed to do.
He's supposed to show up, and they'll probably issue a subpoena for him to show up, and then the battle will be on, and it'll be tied up in court for a while. But, you know, the Justice Department has a history of backing Congress up when they say we have a legitimate subpoena, and the person didn't show up, and the Justice Department then goes after those people. At least they have in the past. Will they do it for someone in the Biden family? Well, stay tuned. We'll find out about that. Meanwhile, over at the White House, of course, the president, he pops his head up to do an event, and all the press was brave. All the hound dogs of the press, they were after him, trying to get some answer about his son.
Ask the press to step out so we can begin our briefing. Thank you.
Mr. President, should your son have defied the subpoena?
Did you watch?
Mr. President.
He just got up and walked away. You know how he does. He sort of smirks and then he walks away. Karine Jean-Pierre, however, was asked some questions. She couldn't just walk out of the room. So, here's how that all went earlier today.
Is the president okay with his son defying a congressional subpoena?
I'm just not going to get into specifics on that. I would have to refer you to the president's, not the president, but Hunter's personal representatives. He's a private citizen. So I'm just not going to get into it.
Yeah, just not going to get into it. But then she got into it a little.
Did he spend any time watching what his son had to say outside the Capitol?
So a couple of things on that, and I want to be really clear. Look, as you know, Hunter Biden is a private citizen. And so I certainly would refer you to his representatives. Look, the president was certainly familiar with what his son was going to say. And I think what you saw was from the heart from his son. And you've heard me say this. You've heard the president say this. When it comes to the president and the first lady, they are proud of him continuing to rebuild his life. They are proud of their son.
Can you tell us when the last time the two of them spoke?
I mean, I'm also not going to get into private conversation that the president has with his family. We've been pretty consistent. That's nothing new. We're just not going to get into it from here. You want to be more specific on your...
From the president spent a lot of time in Congress, been around Washington a while. Does he believe that congressional subpoenas are something that individual citizens can ignore?
I'm just not going to speak to that. Just not.
Why not?
You want to be more specific on your question?
He's a former senator. He's issued subpoenas in his career. Does he believe that subpoenas have to be complied with?
I'm just going to have you speak to the White House counsel on this. I'm just not going to speak to that.
Well, it turns out that, Biden, of course, served in the Senate, issued a lot of subpoenas, expected those subpoenas to be followed when he was, chairman of, let's say, the Foreign Relations Committee or the Judiciary Committee. He served on both as chairman. And, he sort of expected when he issued a subpoena that people would come. And when there were subpoenas issued for Trump people back when the Democrats controlled the House, he was very much in favor of making sure that people didn't defy those subpoenas. He was asked about it in October of 2021.
He asked the president tonight, what is his response to this? What does he think of people who are defying these subpoenas? And should the Justice Department prosecute them? And this is what he told us.
I hope that the committee goes after them and holds them accountable.
Should they be prosecuted by the
I
Justice
do,
Department?
yes.
Yeah, he says, no, I believe this. If you defy a subpoena, I hope the committee goes after him. Well, he wasn't talking about his son, but good for the goose, good for the gander, right? Oh, man. It's just, they're just not consistent at all. Here's Inside Baseball. Chad Pergram is a guy that I actually hired this guy at Fox News back in the day, and he was one of my greatest hires ever. This guy is the person who covers Capitol Hill for Fox News. He has an institutional knowledge like nobody's business. And he's always, he's the guy who can tell you the things that, hey, Chad, do you remember back when? And he can just come up with the stuff. He's just remarkable. The best on the beat by far. Well, Chad was talking on Fox News, and he was throwing out this little inside baseball about why Hunter Biden chose to go to the Senate side of the Capitol. Let me just lay the right in front of the Capitol and the Senate side is a little patio. It used to be called, well, they still call it the swamp site because it used to be a big mud hole. And all of the reporters have their television connections there, and a lot of interviews are done there. A lot of live shots are done there. And it's a place where if you want to catch a senator, you say, meet me at the swamp site. Everybody knows what you're talking about. It's that little patio out there. And so he chose to do it at the swamp site. And on the Senate side, not the House side. Remember, it's a House subpoena, but he did it on the Senate side. Why? Here's Chad Pergram.
And let me talk a little bit about the theatrics and the geography of Capitol Hill today. You know, everybody said, okay, we're going to have Hunter Biden come in to the House side. To the House side. This was going to be a closed-door deposition in the Rayburn House office building. All of a sudden, we got word that Hunter Biden and his attorney, Abbe Lowell, were going to appear on the Senate side of Capitol Hill. And I said, well, why does that happen? You might have heard a question at the very end of that James Comer press conference where somebody said, will you ask the sergeant at arms to enforce the subpoena against Hunter Biden? Right now, Hunter Biden is out of compliance with that subpoena for a closed-door deposition. And if he showed up on the House side of Capitol Hill and had that press conference, he might be in a little more House or legal jeopardy there. But by doing this on the Senate side and saying I'm on Capitol Hill and kind of thumbing your nose at the House investigators, but being somewhere where the House sergeant at arms does not have authority, that was, some pretty good stagecraft there by Abbe Lowell to do this on Capitol Hill, but not do this on the House side of Capitol Hill and inoculate his client from that subpoena by doing this on the Senate side of the Capitol. As I say, a lot of times the House and Senate, they're part of the legislative branch. They just happen to be in the same building. They are distinct branches of government in the legislative branch here, and the power does not, cross that.
Wow.
So by doing this on the Senate side, this helped them, and the House had no authority over on the Senate side.
To nerds like us who follow this, and you know the ins and the outs of how everything works, and you're right, that was smart of Abbe Lowell to do that particular staging. Wow.
That's one I hadn't seen before, hadn't anticipated before.
Chad, and that's why we keep you around.
That's right.
Well, Chad Pergram is right about that, and it is really, he wouldn't dare, he wouldn't dare show up on the House side. No, he'll take shelter over on the Senate, where by the way Democrats are in control. A little safer over there. Yeah, he didn't dare want to come over to the House side. So, in recapping all of this, the stage is set for a big battle over whether or not they can force him to show up for a closed-door sworn deposition. Now, if it's what the thing to watch next is whether or not if they issue a request to the Department of Justice to prosecute them for being out of compliance with that subpoena, then it'll be interesting to see whether or not the Justice Department and Merrick Garland, who's in charge as the Attorney General, will go after Hunter Biden with the same kind of vigor that they've gone after Republicans when Democrats were in charge. What do you think? I mean, if they don't do it, it's a pretty obvious thing that they're showing favoritism, which they always claim they don't do. I don't know how you could not go after him. But it'll be interesting to see if they can find a way, because I don't think they want to. And by the way, remember, the Department of Justice is under the control of the Biden administration. The Attorney General was chosen by the President of the United States. Now, he's supposed to be the Attorney General of the United States, not the Attorney General of the Biden administration. But he's shown a willingness to not do the right thing. He's been very much involved, it would seem to me, in sort of causing delay in the investigation. The Department of Justice has delayed any investigation. The whistleblowers have pointed this out, that they did everything they could to stop the investigation into Hunter Biden. It really is an investigation into whether or not there has been influence peddling on the part of the President of the United States, and they've done everything they can to derail that investigation. It is only because the House Republicans have started an investigation when they took control of the House early this year that we have any of this stuff coming out, because the Justice Department didn't really have an interest in finding out the truth. And it seems that Republicans have dug up a lot of stuff that sure make it look like there may have been some influence peddling. Are they there? Not 100%, but boy, they're getting close. That's why this afternoon, the House of Representatives will formally vote to go forward with this impeachment inquiry. It's been going on, but the formal vote, it gives them a lot more credibility to the claim, and it will also sort of strengthen their legal position. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. We'll watch that. And in fact, if that debate starts during our show, we may dip in and hear just a little bit of it. 21 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. King Insurance and Associates, King and Associates Insurance in Brentwood has been in business for over 25 years as an independent agency. Now, I'm telling you, that is something that you should really seek out. Because as an independent agency, they can really do a lot of things for you that the big companies really just can't do. For example, they represent a great number of insurance companies and insurance products, and they can go through and they can weed out the things that that really don't work for you and give you something that really does work for you. I mean, if you're paying for insurance, you want to make sure that the policy really fits your personal need, and that's what they're great at, finding that policy that covers you in a way that other policies might not. They provide a great deal of expertise in that regard, and you will be well served in that matter. Now, a lot of times if you call the big insurance companies, you end up talking to, one of those recordings. Well, your call is important to us. Please stand by. Well, if it was really important to you, they'd answer the dang call, wouldn't they? Well, that's what they'll do over at King Associates. 615-329-8121. You don't reach a call center. You don't get a phone tree. You don't get a recording. You get an actual person every time, and they will connect you to the person who can help you out and solve your problem. They're masters at the multiple policy discount. You can save 20, 25, 30, 35%, huge savings. So get your royal review with King and Associates Insurance. Log on to tkinginsurance.com. That's tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance and Associates, royal treatment and great rates.
Today, President Biden sits down with family members of American hostages that are being held in Gaza. A fatal house fire in Tennessee, and if you own a Tesla, it could be getting recalled. We'll tell you why. 30 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, the thing about it, if it gets recalled, they just do an update on their software over the, so you just park your car next to your Wi-Fi, and that's the recall. A little different, than most recalls that you ever hear about. Well, listen, that's Mac Maury there in the newsroom, and Chris Webber is back from a well-deserved few days off. Good to see you both. We haven't talked, I think, since last Thursday, all the A-team.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, so, and we had the live remote on Thursday, and then I took Friday off, and Chris was gone, and then I come back, and he's still gone, and he's still gone. Guys, I got a lot of vacation.
Lost,
Yeah, you got lost on the way to work. I saw this story, guys, and it reminds me, the good Lord looks out for folks. A 4-month-old, according to WSMV, survives after being sucked up by the tornado in Clarksville. Did you read this story? Searching for a new home with their 2 babies. Tornado demolished the family's mobile home while they were inside. 22-year-old Sydney Moore and her 4-month-old was sucked up inside of it and survived. Debris is all that's left. Scattered reminders of what the father and kids lived through. Moore said she was in the back bedroom with her 1-year-old son. She heard the wind howling. Something in me just told me to run and jump on top of my son. Literally, the moment I jumped and the walls collapsed. At the same moment in the living room, the kid's father said he saw the funnel down on top of them. The roof came off first. The tip of the tornado came down and picked up the bassinet with my baby in it. Wow. Lord, mercy. He was the first thing to go up. Her boyfriend hurled himself to grab the 4-month-old baby who was asleep in the bassinet, but he got spun up and thrown out along with the baby. He was just holding on to the bassinet the whole time, and they went in circles, and then they got thrown. Can you imagine?
That's scary.
I know. Wow. Moore and the 1-year-old baby were crushed under the trailer. She said somehow she was able to push them free and get out. Then they were frantically searching for 10 minutes, and guess what? They find the baby alive, lying in a fallen tree in the pouring rain, just minor cuts and bruises. I thought he was dead. I was pretty sure he was dead, and we weren't going to find him, but he's here, and that's by the grace of God. That is, you talk about a compelling story. That's compelling. And I reminded of the tornado in 2020. There was a kid that apparently got sucked up into the air by a toddler, maybe 3 or 4 years old. I don't remember the exact details. And the parents, were frantically searching after the tornado really did a lot of damage to their house for their kid. And they found him walking down the street in his jammies, no shoes on, and he said to them, "Mama, I went up into the air." That was his first words. I was flying in the air. But yet the kid was completely fine. Apparently it was wherever he landed relatively in a soft way. Good Lord of mercy. What an amazing story. That's the thing about these tornadoes. You always hear, there are a lot of tragedies, but there are these amazing stories where it looks like somebody was looking out for them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyway, it's good to have you guys back, the A-team back in its place. It is now 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7.
3:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 55 degrees in Nashville. Weather forecast, traffic report coming up in 5 minutes. Today, President Biden sat down at the White House with family members of American hostages still being held in Gaza. The White House says they aren't sure of the status of these hostages, but that the president has been highly engaged in trying to secure their release. Karen Travers.
The White House says President Biden was moved by the stories he heard from the families of the Americans held hostage by Hamas. He met with them for 2 hours Wednesday morning at the White House. National Security Spokesman John Kirby.
The president was very grateful for the time that they afforded him. And he was moved by their stories, by the love they feel, by the hope that they still harbor. And he harbors that hope, too.
Kirby said the president promised the White House would keep the families informed every step of the way.
And while the president was doing that, House Republicans have getting ready for a vote to formalize the impeachment inquiry against him. Republicans say the impeachment inquiry vote will bolster their efforts to find evidence that backs up the suggestion that Joe Biden took actions as vice president on behalf of the business run by his son and his brother. Right now in Tennessee, Channel 4 says that one person died on Monday in a fatal house fire. This was in Montgomery County on Highway 48 in Cunningham. The home was taken over by flames. The homeowner died. No firefighters were injured. And if you own a Tesla, there's a good chance your car's being recalled. Mike Dubusky brings details.
Tesla is recalling 2 million sedans and crossovers. Chad Kirshner of EV Pulse says it has to do with the car's standard driver assistance technology called autopilot.
It handles the lane centering, accelerating, and decelerating so that you can pay attention to other things.
But the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says Tesla doesn't do enough to ensure drivers remain attentive while autopilot is active. Tesla says there is incontrovertible data that shows autopilot saves lives. They're offering a software update to address the recall.
And NHTSA's investigation into autopilot is ongoing. That is the latest news. Weather, traffic next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Awaken 180 is my solution for weight loss.
Laughing, learning, friendships. Not the words normally associated with trying to lose weight. But with Awaken 180, you're not trying. Weekly weight loss while gaining the tools to keep it off. Free support for life, friends for life. Learn how over 17,000 clients succeeded with the solution for weight loss.
All right, so how are you faring in the market right now? I mean, are you up? Are you down? I mean, it's hard to know. I mean, some days it's good, some days it's bad. It drives you crazy, doesn't it? Well, the experts at Beacon Capital Management understand that can be a little scary if you're nearing retirement. But here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are and help you make the mid-course corrections that might be needed. I mean, wouldn't it be great to know you have peace of mind that you're on the right path as you approach your retirement? Beacon can provide you that reassurance. It starts with a simple phone call to this number, 615-488-9303. That's 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon will ask you some questions and take it from there. You have nothing, absolutely nothing to lose in all of this except for potentially the worry that you have. So get started today by calling that number, 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easier knowing you have a plan that meets your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. The number, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away, and you can always learn more at askbeaconnow.com. 38 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock, the first hour of 4 that we're doing here for you today. Our whole goal here is to get you some news and information, some analysis, some talking points, so you'll have, when you get home, you'll have something to talk about. And I hope that you do. I hope you have conversation around the dinner table. Everybody knows nothing better to talk about at the dinner table than politics, right?
That's all we talk about. Yeah, sure.
Actually, I like it, but it, to each their own. But, you'll have stuff to talk about with the fam. I want to talk about the situation on the southern border, which continues to deteriorate because it's becoming a big issue. And questions were actually some pretty good questions being asked today in the White House briefing room. I mean, the concern is that the people coming across the border now, they're just not from Mexico and Central America or even South America. They're from all over the world. Reporter Griff Jenkins over at the Fox News Channel talked about what he'd seen in the last few days.
They're getting people over the weekend from Bangladesh, from Egypt, from China, from Senegal. I just met a man in this group right here that is from Angola. He told me from Africa. He's from Angola. He spent 5 months traveling. He spent thousands of dollars to fly to Brazil, then made the dangerous trek through the Darien Gap between Colombia and Panama, went through Central America, Mexico, and now he's here today. Who knows? Maybe he'll be released.
Well, he probably was.
I love you, Joe Biden. Thank you for everything, Joe Biden.
I'm telling you, they're very grateful to the Biden administration for doing that, and they'll be very grateful if they sometimes down the road become American citizens and get the chance to vote for the Democrats.
I love you, Joe Biden. Thank you for everything, Joe Biden.
To them, it's all, thank you. It's the President of the United States who's responsible for all of this. But there is a real question, and to me, it's the biggest question of all. I mean, that you can ask a lot of questions about border security and all of the things that come along with it, the human trafficking, the suffering, the fentanyl, the drugs. But I'm really worried about the people who may be coming across the border who have no contact with law enforcement whatsoever. By some counts, that's 1.8 million people since President Biden took office, 1.8 million. And by the way, they say those are the known gotaways, that the true number is probably about 20% higher. So that's really, we're talking about 2 million people, right at 2.2 million people. And here we go. At the White House today, it started off with some questions from that nice Peter Doocy.
In the last 24 hours, 10,000 illegal border crossings, southwest border. Would you admit that the border policy, the Biden border policy so far has not worked?
What I will say is that we have known for decades, that the immigration policy is, the immigration system is broken.
Well, hold on a minute. How is it broken? I mean, I just have to stop here because we didn't have this problem during President Trump. It wasn't broken during President Trump. The borders were secure. Now, you may have had differences of opinion about how the immigration process should work, but the law requires that people going across the border be sent back, that they're not supposed to be allowed to come across the border illegally. I mean, the people who are coming across the border and being given a piece of paper and told America's that way, they are already in violation of the law. They are criminals the moment they step on American soil. But that gets overlooked by the Biden administration. So anyway, here, let her continue.
I've said that over and over again. That has been Republican administration and Democratic administration. That is not unheard of. That is what we have seen for the past couple of decades.
About 1,000 of these illegal border crossers every day are getting away to parts unknown in the U.S. Does the president think that is a national security risk?
Here's what I'll say. One of the ways that we also have to look at this is what congressional Republicans have refused to do. They refused to support previous requests from the president. What they've asked to do actually hurts the issue, hurts the problem that we're seeing at the border.
In your opinion.
They said no to border agents. They've said no to new technology to fight fentanyl. They said no to additional troops. And they voted on eliminating 2,000 Customs and Border Patrol agents. That is what Republicans have done. The president is asking to do this in a bipartisan way, to find some compromise to deal with an issue that hasn't existed for decades now.
Well, hold on. That's just, I mean, I have to call her out on that. Because it is. It's total. You know what? It's what it is. It's. I mean, yeah. She's saying that. Well, the Republicans, they turned down. These proposals. Well, she doesn't talk about what's in the proposals. See, it sounds like, well, we've done everything we can. We tried, and the Republicans, they wouldn't even talk to us about it. Well, because what they wanted was more people to go down to the border and process paperwork. What they wanted was not, going to be very helpful to stopping the flow. It's the policy interpretation. The laws basically are being circumvented because the Biden administration has actually, subverted the law with the way they interpret the policy. Certainly, what is going on at the border now was never the intent of Congress when they passed the border laws and was signed into law by a previous president. But each president, gets to put their own touch on how we're going to interpret that law. And so, Republicans are saying, no, we don't like your approach. It's, you can propose anything and then sit there nobly and say, well, we tried. Well, but if you propose something ridiculous, it's not surprising that Congress tells you where to go. And they're not going to go for that. No can do. I can't go for that. No can do. And it wasn't just Ducey. I mean, boy, this CBS reporter really got in Karine Jean-Pierre's grill.
Put forth, and you laid that out in your question, a comprehensive immigration reform plan. He did that on day one, and it is going on 3 years. On 3 years.
Pushing that
on
bill
3 years.
Congress.
Here's the
Because
thing.
he's met with them on foreign policy, on fiscal cliffs,
and
on budget, and it's never been about immigration.
And we have regular conversations with congressional leaders and congressional staff about an array of issues, including this. I mean, you cannot send a bigger message to Congress and the American people when you say when you put out your first piece of legislation is on this issue.
Well, what he wanted was amnesty. What he wanted was to change and strike down what laws we have and just to open up the border. So, yeah, it doesn't matter whether it was the first thing he proposed. What really matters is what was in that proposal. And believe me, Republicans were correct to reject it.
On reforming immigration, right? It's on fixing.
Flat when you spend very little public time as president talking about the issue, meeting with congressional leaders on the issue specifically, or doing anything else other than having you come out here and say, we issued a bill on day one.
I disagree. It's not just issue a bill. Like not too long ago, back in the spring, we put forth policies on trying to make sure that because Congress didn't help, on trying to put forth policies that tried to make the immigration system humane, right? Humane and actually dealing with the issue that we're seeing at the border. We have taken policy actions after policy actions without the help from Congress, right? And so that is being consistent here. And when you put forth the first piece of legislation to be on this issue that has been broken for decades, I mean, that's what he did as president. That's taking it very, very seriously.
He says that, well, we've been consistent on this. Yes, consistently wrong. Consistent is not necessarily a good thing. It can be a good thing or a bad thing. You can be consistently right or you can be consistently wrong, and they've been consistently wrong on border policy. And he says, well, the problem's been there for decades. Well, if Congress never got to the point where they felt like they needed to do something about it. They liked the laws that were in place. And you can propose anything, but if Congress says, that's just not something that we agree with, we're not going to go forward, then you come to the table and you negotiate. You come to the table and you try to come up with compromise. But they want it their way or the highway. They don't want to compromise, and therefore there have been no further discussions. But just look at the record here, okay? When Trump was president, we didn't have problems on the border. I mean, there were some problems, but not like we have today. Not like we have today, where thousands of people are coming across every single day, and only thing that stops them from entering the country is that they have to stop for a few moments to get a piece of paper from the Border Patrol. The Border Patrol is processing people. They're not patrolling the border. In other immigration news, Far-left mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, according to the National Pulse, has filed 55 lawsuits against what he calls rogue bus companies transporting illegal migrants from the southern border to his city. The suit impacts 77 buses accused of violating rules brought in by Mayor Johnson in mid-November about where and when coaches can arrive. Mayor Johnson's new rules allow for just 2 buses carrying migrants to arrive every hour and state that buses can only arrive between 8 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. Monday to Friday. The rules also require buses to ask for official approval to transport migrants. Well, yeah, the city's Department of Transportation has yet to receive any applications. Chicago, however, continues to welcome asylum seekers, but the city cannot safely and efficiently shelter migrants when bus companies contracted by the state of Texas flagrantly violate all safety measures that the city has put into place. Nearly 25,000 illegal migrants have arrived in Chicago since August 2022. City officials have been forced to build a winterized base camp for migrants living on the streets, as well as clandestine facilities to hide the recent influx from local residents. Again, that's from the National Pulse. This is, I think, one of the biggest issues facing America today. And by the way, the electorate thinks so too. When you ask people in polls, what are your big concerns? Well, the first thing they say is the economy, because that infects every single person right in their pocketbook. But it's rare to have something like this end up being the number 2 item on their list. And it is. It's number 2 on their list every single time the question is asked. What is your concern? What's going on the border? Because they understand that it's not just at the border, that it's putting cities at risk. It's putting America at risk. It's creating a tremendous number of problems, including a tremendous flow of fentanyl into this country that is going largely unchecked because the coyotes know how to play the system and avoid detection. They let the bad people in when the Border Patrol is overwhelmed with people who want their little piece of paper. And with the bad people comes a load of fentanyl. And it's ending up in your backyard, and your friends and neighbors are dying. 1.8, let's call it 2 million, really, because they say it's 20% higher than what they know, because they know of known gotaways, and they have gotaways they don't know about. 2 million people. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they are. We have no idea what they're up to. Sleep well, America. 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Well, the Wellness Institute of Nashville wants you to leave your pain behind in 2023. Get on the right pain path. Get rid of your pain, and by the time 2024 gets going real good, and with help from the Wellness Institute of Nashville. You see, the 2023 special, it's in its last month because, well, we're almost through 2023. So take this as a chance to get rid of your pain for only $23. Have you been diagnosed and getting treatment but still have chronic pain? That happens a lot of time. Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley there have tremendous success in going through MRI reports and finding things that other people missed. And then they can provide you with the real facts, the things you need to know, and recommend a thoughtful, customized treatment plan. Maybe you've had your MRI report explained, maybe you haven't. They can help you with that. If you're a new patient, bring your MRI report for analysis, or let Dr. Mitchell or Dr. Ashley do their own x-rays. Then you get your first treatment for $23 with state-of-the-art therapy and equipment. You are more than a number at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. They care about helping you get pain-free. Here's the number, 615-246-5009. 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
An impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. House Republicans trying to move forward to formalize that with a vote. A teenager dead today over a crash. We'll tell you how, where, when it all happened. And some news coming out of Arizona concerning warnings about a man who allegedly tried to kidnap multiple women close to a university, plus a missing girl right here in the mid-state. All at 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, let's take a look at the markets. I mean, a remarkable day. The Dow hit an all-time new high. So, I mean, it's at Dow 37,000. How about that? Up 512. The S&P up 63. NASDAQ up 200. That's about 1.4%. This all has to do with comments made by Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. And John Maxton is standing by over at Beacon Capital Management with more on that. Hello, John.
Hey, Brian. Yeah, great day on the market. And as you said, the Dow hit an all-time high, highest point in history. And really the market was pretty flat, but eagerly anticipating Jerome Powell's speech today and what they were going to do with interest rates. And really the market got the information and the message you wanted to hear. For the third straight meeting, they left rates steady, but that wasn't really the message. The message was for overwhelmingly that they are done raising rates and now looking to potentially lower rates multiple times in 2024. And of course, that's going to lower the cost of capital for businesses and other things and mortgages. So the market loved that message and very, very positively received today.
All right. Thank you very John Maxon. We appreciate you. We can always find out more about the things they can do for you at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It is 59 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Hey, listen, you know about Legend Steakhouse, great place to go for dinner tonight. If you're, on the way home and you want to stop and have a good steak, I recommend Legend Steakhouse. They have multiple locations. On Monday, December 18th, a special thing, customers can buy $100 in gift cards and get an extra $25 gift card with no extra charge for free. I mean, it's like you get a bonus right there. You get a gift and you got one to stick back for yourself, perhaps. You want to think about them for lunch. They do a meat and two thing. I've talked about this forever. 4 fried pork chops, Smoky Mountain meatloaf, fried catfish, slow-cooked pot roast with gravy, 14 vegetables and casseroles to choose from. It's good old-fashioned home cooking, the kind your mama used to make. In fact, these recipes came from Johnny's mom. He borrowed them over 30 years ago, and he never just gave them back. Legend Steakhouse, multiple locations, good food at a fair price. Go to legendsteakhouse.com. That's legendssteakhouse.com to find their locations or to order online. A local Tennessee company that's been in business for 34 years. You're going to love your next visit to Legend Steakhouse.
.401, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, it's 55 degrees on Music Row. We got a full weather forecast plus a full traffic report headed your way in 5 minutes. Starting in the nation's capital with House Republicans. They're continuing to move forward with an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. His son, Hunter, who declined to appear for a deposition before House committee today, is embroiled in the investigations into business dealings overseas. Here's what Republicans said of their inquiry during debate today. Liz Landers.
Republicans moved to open an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden with a House debate and vote on Wednesday. Here's Republican Tom Cole of Oklahoma.
With today's resolution, we're ensuring that the House will be able to complete its inquiry. We will secure the evidence we need and uncover the facts we need to make the full and fair determination.
Republicans have investigated the president and his son Hunter over still unproven claims that the president improperly benefited from his family members' business ventures overseas.
Speaker Mike Johnson said today, quote, "I think it's going to pass." Right now in the Volunteer State, a teenager died today in a crash. It happened on Highway 41 in Goodlettsville this morning. A 17-year-old boy was hit by a Dodge Ram right around 5 a.m. near Dickerson Pike while in the middle of the road. He was transported to a hospital with his mother by his side, where he later passed away. The driver of that truck cooperated with the investigation. Still unclear why the boy was in the middle of a busy street. And in Arizona, police in Tucson are issuing warnings about a man who has allegedly tried to kidnap multiple women around the University of Arizona in the past week. Alex Stone.
Tucson police say they're increasing their presence after at least 3 cases in which victims have given the same description of a man, 6 feet tall and a heavy build, 2 attempted kidnappings and a 3rd attempted groping. Chris Olson is chief of police at the University of Arizona, telling students to be aware.
First, maintain your situational awareness. If you're wearing ear pods, don't wear 2. Take one out so you can hear things around you.
In at least one of the cases, a man ran off when the woman screamed.
Here in Tennessee, a missing girl. Middle Tennessee officials are searching for 14-year-old Lillian Ryan of Spencer, Tennessee, who was last seen there on Saturday. Ryan's a white female, brown hair, brown eyes. She weighs around 120 pounds and is around 5 feet tall. Anyone with information is asked to call the Spencer Police Department. And some money news. The Federal Reserve Board has decided to leave interest rates unchanged. It's the 3rd straight unchanged for the Fed. Policymakers are also indicating that rate cuts could be coming in 2024. Here's Alexis Christoforous.
The Fed's statement said the committee would take multiple factors into account for any more policy tightening. That word any had not appeared previously. The Fed now signaling we could get 3 interest rate cuts in 2024. It had previously indicated perhaps 1 rate cut. Some ambitious on Wall Street thought we might get 4 rate cuts.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Brian Wilson in for hour number 2 of the 4-hour extravaganza we call The Drive each day here on Super Talk 99.7. So happy to have you with us. We always are honored that you find favor with what we do. And we've been, because we have been named one of the top talk shows in the evening drive in mid-markets around the country. So really very happy to get that honor, and it's only because you find favor with what we do, and I'm honored, and I'm really humbled that you tune in every day. Truly am, and glad to have you. Let's talk about politics 2024, because we are, in 2 days, it'll be exactly a month to the Iowa caucus. So a month and 2 days from now, we will be focusing on Iowa, where the corn grows high as an elephant's eye, or something like that. I'm telling you, it's getting down to the first votes before very long. And on the Republican side of the equation, it now looks like it's going to be very much a Donald Trump kind of event. The Des Moines Register poll came out the other day, and somebody pointed out that, well, in 1 year, I think it's 2016, the Des Moines Register got it badly wrong. They had Trump winning, and actually, I think Cruz won by a slight margin. But really, when you look at that, it was a very small margin of error in the poll, and they missed it by just a little when you figure the margin for error. But they're saying now that Trump's so far ahead that the margin of error really doesn't matter. I mean, he's like 28 points ahead, I think, in Iowa. So it really doesn't, if you have a margin of error of 3 points, but you're 23 points ahead, chances are that margin of error is not going to really matter. So what if they're wrong, you still win by 21 points or 20 points? I mean, come on. It doesn't matter. Trump is so far ahead. And when asked about things like, what about all these lawsuits? It's pretty interesting. What about all these indictments? The Washington Examiner asked that question. The 91 felony charges against Trump. According to the poll that they took there, 73% say they believe Trump can win against Biden regardless of the legal challenges. That's up from 65% in October. I mean, it doesn't matter. He is Obi-Don Kenobi.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Also,
This is the way. This is the way.
Yeah, I just like that one. So he's absolutely gonna cream everybody. It looks like DeSantis probably will be the person who is next up, but it's not much of a contest really at this point. So with every poll that comes out, the answers are pretty consistent. In some polls, he leads by 40 points. In some polls, he leads by 50 points. In some polls, it's even more than that. I will tell you that probably his weakest point right now is New Hampshire, which comes right after Iowa. According to a new Trafalgar GOP nomination poll, looks at New Hampshire voters, he gets 45% of the vote. Haley is number 2 in New Hampshire, 18% of the vote, according to this poll. Christie comes in third, believe it or not, with 14% of the vote. DeSantis has 11% of the vote. But I mean, when Trump leads Haley by 27 points, you're not going to overcome that. There's just no way you can overcome that. So Trump is probably going to win Iowa. Trump is probably going to win New Hampshire. Go to South Carolina. Yeah, I mean, you would say, well, Nikki Haley should do well in South Carolina. Yeah, but not as good as Trump. I mean, the polls have been taken in South Carolina as well, and he does very, very well there. I think probably on the Republican side of the equation, it'll all be over by Super Tuesday, by the time we get to vote. Super Tuesday is when we're voting. It will have already been decided that Trump, everybody's going to fall out because you just, you don't overcome that kind of gap. On the Democrat side of the equation, it's also true that, if given the choice, that the Democrats have right now, about 22% of them, or a good number of them, will vote for RFK. He's following is 22% in national polls, 22%, which is really something. But when you ask the question, Trump, Biden, RFK, West, and Marianne Williamson, and you put all those together, you might even have, potentially somebody like Joe Manchin. What's interesting is the more candidates you add to the mix when you do the polling, the worse Joe Biden does. In other words, you add in these other voters and you ask people, what if your choice is RFK and West and Marianne Williamson and all that? Trump, he wins by a greater margin. Let's say it's Trump +2 if it's just a one-on-one matchup. But when there are 4 people in the matchup, it's like Trump +6 in some polls. So it looks, bring all the people you want to challenge. The voters who support Trump, and those other voters tend to take away from Joe Biden. They're Democrats who are dissatisfied with the Biden policies so far. All right. Axelrod. David Axelrod, big senior advisor to Obama when Joe Biden was vice president. This was a guy that he knew very well. And he says that a recent Wall Street Journal poll showing President Biden approval rating hitting a new low is very, very dark. Quote, very, very dark for Biden's reelection campaign. Job approval down, ratings generally down. Most of the comparatives with former President Trump not good, Axelrod said on a podcast. About 37% of respondents in the Wall Street Journal poll released Saturday said they approve of the job Biden is doing as president. 37%. That's bad. While 61% had an unfavorable view. In a hypothetical matchup between Biden and Trump, who continues to lead into GOP primary polls, as I just told you, Biden trailed the former president by 4 points. And 47% of respondents say they would vote for Trump, and 43% said they would choose Biden. Axelrod said he's most alarmed by the numbers regarding voters' perception of Biden's and Trump's policies when president. About 23% of voters said Biden's policies have helped them. 23%. Democrats make up only 29% of the electorate. So that means that most of the Democrats are going to, be loyal, although quite a few will defect. 49% said the same of Trump's policy. About 53% said Biden's policies hurt them personally. 37% said the same for Trump. Quote, what I worry about from a Biden standpoint is that there are all kinds of things you get when people are starting to rationalize their votes. Okay, they're all ready to fire Biden. That's no problem. And they just put him out another photo up with the Bidenomics sign next to him. It's just unbelievable to me. Yeah, they keep talking about Bidenomics. It's not working for anybody. I don't know what in the world they think is the strategy there. Axelrod noted that based on the private polling he's heard about, it's bad. It's not quite as bad as you see in the public polling, but it's bad. Axelrod also made an apparent reference to recent CNN polls showing Trump with a 10-point lead over Biden in the battleground state of Michigan. It's time to start drawing this choice because I think a lot of us think enough of through these polls. We see whether it's Michigan or the Wall Street Journal and think to yourself, okay, people, haven't made the turn yet to making the choice. There are still the Biden is bad, let's fire Biden polls. And that's not good. Now, look, I'm a Republican. I'm not ashamed to say I'm a Republican. I'm a proud Republican. I've been a Republican ever since Ronald Reagan came along. I wasn't very smart in the first time I got to vote. I was only 18. I didn't know any better. I voted for Jimmy Carter. Boy, do I regret that vote. After that, I got straightened out. And when I voted for Ronald Reagan, I became a believer in the conservative cause. And so, I'm not afraid to say that I'm a Republican. And as a Republican, I keep saying this is great. Biden is melting down. Trump is on the right trajectory. As a Republican, I'm happy with that. But there's a part of me as an analyst of this stuff that looks at it and says, you know what? They can't possibly put Biden up. I mean, they're running out of time to choose somebody else unless they do it at the convention. And a convention switcheroo, not unheard of, could happen. The numbers keep going down, 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 down. Who knows what happens at the Democrat convention? But if they put Biden up against Trump, it's over. The way it looks to me right now. Things can change. It's early, but I'm telling you, the trajectory for Trump is good. The trajectory for Biden is bad. And I just don't think the Democrats are stupid. I guess that's where I, as an analyst, look and say they're not dumb. Surely they're not going to just let this guy go be the nominee. Looks that way today, but I just have a sneaking suspicion that at some point, people like Axelrod, who speaks by the way on behalf of Obama, he's not an official Obama spokesperson, but those two are welded at the hip. I mean, they see the world exactly the same way. When you hear Axelrod saying this, he's sort of voicing the concerns that Obama would have if Obama wanted to go out and say these things. He won't. So I still think something's in the works. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going to be the determining factor. I don't know what has to happen. I can imagine a scenario where Biden does another face plant and gets up and bobbles his way through a press conference like he does every day, and then somebody just said, okay, that's it. We just have got to do something. But as it stands right now, in Biden versus Trump, Biden's not doing too well. Trump's doing pretty well. It's 20 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. United Structural Systems can help you if you have a big problem with your house and something like waterproofing. You need work there, or you have foundation issues. Well, this is what they do, man. This is their specialty. And, you may want to hold off. You say, well, I don't really want to know how bad it is because it could be really bad. Well, that's true. It could be bad. Could be something big that needs to be fixed. Possibility. Could be a small problem now that will become much bigger and much more expensive to fix if you wait. Or it could be nothing at all. You may be worried about nothing. It could be very simple. Bottom line is this is not your area of expertise, and you need to have the information. You need people who know what they're talking about to come out and give you an assessment. And the people that you absolutely should call in that case are the people at USS, United Structural Systems, 25,000 satisfied residential customers. Listen to what Joshua said about them. Recently had our foundation repaired by the team at USS, and it was an exceptional experience. They finished ahead of schedule, kept us informed every step of the way, restored everything perfectly. Even after digging deep into our lawn and tearing out concrete, their professionalism and courtesy stood out, working seamlessly with other vendors at our house and explained all the changes up front. Communication and the process completely smooth. What impressed us most was the cleanliness. They contained the mess, left the site spotless. We got multiple quotes, and USS was not only competitive, but honest. They didn't try to up charges. Highly recommend USS. USS, they guarantee their best, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama. Online at USSTN.com. Call this number, 615-488-7855.
The President Biden impeachment inquiry being voted on amongst House Republicans, a death at a car dealership in Tennessee, and the latest money news. Those stories coming up 30 minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 25 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Listen, guys, I stand behind no man in my appreciation of butter. I love butter.
Well, who doesn't?
Who doesn't love butter? I know, but people say, well, for years and years and years, people say, you're eating butter? Oh, my. And because they think that butter's bad for you. I'm reading a story here, and this is very complex. You can find the link on ufarb.com if you want to get into the greater details of it. But they're talking to dietitians, and they're saying, butter versus margarine. Is one better than the other? And they go through in just an incredible amount of detail where they compare the advantages of butter over margarine. And, it gets down to the end. But it really has something to do about the difference between omega-3 fats and omega-6 fats and whether one of them is good for you and one of them is bad for you. And so they say, look, the bottom line is that butter in moderation is not inherently a bad thing. And, much better than, eating a lot of margarine in some ways for most people. And I like that, I like that. I like that idea a lot. The problem is the word moderation.
Yeah, that you're going to have to be more specific.
Yeah, I don't know.
My moderation's probably not the same as somebody else's.
I know. This is, to me, honestly, I could make an entire meal, and this is probably not good for you, out of good bread and butter.
Me too.
My mom used to make these amazing yeast rolls on occasion. So good. She'd make them at home, and they would rise, and then she would bake them, and they were so good. They were just delicious, and we would sit down sometimes in the summertime and just, slather them up with butter.
Oh, yeah.
And that might be most of what I ate. I just ate those rolls in butter and drank a big old glass of sweet tea.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty good. I don't know. I struggle with my weight. I lost a lot of weight, but it's amazing how quickly it's coming back now that my appetite has returned. and I'm going to have to watch it. But during the holidays, if you want to eat something that's, has butter, it's okay. Just, try to use it in moderation. And, really think about, if you're slathering a bunch of margarine on it or some kind of butter substitute, think about what that's made out of. It's mostly vegetable oil and emulsifiers and flavorings. Why not just go with the butter?
The real thing.
So good. I know. I'm telling you. The best thing we had at our party, and by the way, we're doing a little gathering of our group this Saturday, and I know you guys are going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But the best thing that was that we had was this prime, what they call it, beef tenderloin.
Ooh.
I didn't realize this is a big roll of meat, and we did 3 of them. I found out later from Cabana Wife. Those were $600 worth of beef.
Oh,
I couldn't believe it.
Great.
Yeah, I said, my Lord, if I'd have known that, I said we could have done something else. But I had no idea. Each one of those rolls is $200.
Jeez.
Yeah, well, I know. Blew the whole food budget is what it did. But so I said, she said, can you help me? I said, sure. And I said, go put salt and pepper on the beef tenderloin. I said, okay. So I'd lathered them all up with salt and pepper, and I thought that was it. And then she said, oh, no, you didn't know what I did afterwards.
Yeah.
I said, what? She said, the thing that makes it is I put melted butter over the whole thing.
Yes.
Oh, I'm telling you, people were raving about it. It was really remarkable. And I authorized one more beef tenderloin for you guys.
Yes. Yeah.
So I signed off on it. They brought by the piece of paper. I said, yes, I approved it.
The bank approved it.
Yeah, I got a loan, and there will be beef tenderloin, but I'll have to pay that out over 12 months.
Yeah.
That's it'll be good. But folks, butter. Better butter, but don't get bitter butter.
No, don't do that.
No. All right, it is 30 minutes now. I don't know. It's 30 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 55 degrees on Music Row. We'll tell you what the weather forecast looks like tonight, tomorrow, and traffic report all just ahead, 5 minutes. The House due to vote today on a measure formalizing the Republican-led impeachment inquiry that's been underway for months. Backers say the vote will strengthen the House's effort to obtain documents and testimony. Stephen Portnoy has more.
The chairman of the House Oversight Committee argues this step is necessary in the face of what he calls stonewalling by the administration.
We are facing obstruction from the White House.
Republican James Comer says he's seeking documents from Joe Biden's time as vice president, as well as testimony from current and former officials. But Democrat Jim McGovern says so far, the GOP has dug up nothing to justify impeachment, and he calls the vote to formalize the inquiry an extreme political stunt.
It has no credibility, no legitimacy, and no integrity.
And House Speaker Mike Johnson says, quote, I think it will pass. Right now, in the volunteer state, Channel 4 reports that a body was found at a Ferrari dealership on Knights of Columbus Boulevard yesterday afternoon. Police said the body was discovered inside of a trailer at the dealership. It's unclear how this person died. Officials don't believe that foul play was involved, but are waiting for more information from the medical examiner's office. Now over to the money news. Daria Albinger lets us know what happened today on Wall Street.
Stocks soared on the latest announcement from the Fed. The Dow closed up 512 points at a record 37,090. The Nasdaq added 201 for the session, and the S&P added 63. Adobe Analytics among the companies announcing after the close its latest numbers beating analysts' expectations. The Federal Reserve opted as expected to leave a key interest rate unchanged as it adjourned its final meeting of the year. Chair Jerome Powell also signaled they could make 3 quarter-point cuts to the benchmark rate in the new year. Rate cuts can relax pressure on the economy by lowering borrowing costs, and they can boost prices for all kinds of investments. Tesla is recalling more than 2 million vehicles, nearly all it sold in the U.S., to fix a defective system which is supposed to make sure drivers are paying attention when they use autopilot. The recall comes after a 2-year investigation into a series of crashes, some of them deadly.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, let's talk about Grace Point Healthcare. They deliver medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing. It's all above board. It's all transparent. You'll know how much your health care is going to cost before it's even delivered. They have smart care plans for just $69 a month. That's where they start. You get unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. I mean, think about that. Unlimited office visits. And your labs every year free. Basic labs are free. And because they treat the entire family, even newborns, they offer family plans as well. Now, the thing you should do is get a smart care plan and marry it with perhaps that high deductible insurance plan. The catastrophic care plans could be a really good way to save you and your family some money. At Grace Point, take the time. They take their time with each patient. They see you the same next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City year after year after year. COVID testing is something they do, and they also, if you go there, you have COVID, they have some treatments, some therapies that have proven to be very effective in helping people get feeling better quicker. So go by and get tested and get some treatment. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin, 599-6868 to schedule a visit. "38 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air, watching what's happening in Washington right now. You may be hearing in the background the murmuring of the House of Representatives as they now are beginning to decide whether or not to formalize the impeachment inquiry. Joining us on the line right now, as he often does on Wednesdays about this time, it's one of my favorite interviews we do every week, Pete Hegseth with the Fox News Channel. He's the host of the Fox and Friends on the weekend and also a resident of Sumner County the rest of the week when he's not on the air. Pete, good to have you on the show again.
Thank you, Brian.
So it's going to be an interesting day. Did you watch the Dog and Pony show this morning where Hunter Biden went over to the Senate swamp site and said he was willing to appear in a public hearing, but of course they don't want him in a public hearing. They want to have him in a deposition in really under oath so they could bear down on a lot of these questions. What did you think about all that?
Well, it really was a show. It made for interesting live television. Even the cameras didn't know where he might arrive and if he might arrive, and even the detail down to, if he'd arrived on the House side and not the Senate side, Capitol Police, or they could have been compelled to bring him in to testify. I mean, all of that that would not have happened. But it it really is a show in advance of this vote you just referred to, because without this vote, effectively the Biden team can basically try to say, well, we're just doing what Trump did, but of course that's not the case. And then they get the upside of making a public statement, even though that public statement itself was revealing in the choice of words. But I do think it was all a backdrop, a prelude to when this vote happens, when a real showdown would occur. But that, of course, would require the Department of Justice to actually play it straight, too. So House Republicans are going to have to play hardball here to get him behind closed doors first in a normal process so they can go about their work and not just let him make public statements. It was also fascinating to watch the press cover for him when they were interviewing James Comer and just saying, no, they were all loans. Everything was loans. It's all fine. You have no proof. They're completely disinterested in what could be the biggest political corruption scandal of our lifetime, and instead are just covering up.
Yeah, it's interesting. Joe Biden, I remember when I covered him in the Senate, he was the chairman at various times of the House Judiciary Senate Judiciary Committee, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and he issued subpoenas. And if anybody had defied a subpoena, he would have been the first one to call for that person, to be prosecuted by the Department of Justice for not following up on the subpoena. And yet, at the White House, they're hemming and hawing about whether or not, he has an obligation to appear, et cetera. I mean, the only standard they have is double standards over on the Democratic side of the equation, it seems.
Absolutely right. And that's why precedent doesn't matter at all, because they will ignore. I mean, just like Joe Biden says, the rich should pay their fair share, except Hunter Biden. And when he's confronted on that and these are effectively golden handcuffs considering a pardon possibility from his father, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah, it is. You said it right. The only standard they have is a double standard. They will fight this because underneath it, Joe and Jill and James know exactly what was done by the family and exactly how it transpired, and all the fake email accounts and all the shell companies and all the suspicious activity reports and all the loans they can't prove were ever paid back, they tie back to Joe. He's the sitting president of the United States. That's why this matters, but don't count on any part of it being fair.
All right, so if they send out this request to the Department of Justice saying he didn't show up, he's out of compliance with the subpoena, do you think that Merrick Garland will follow suit and actually, compel him to testify?
Well, I have no faith in that, on that. However, that's, again, why this vote is significant. They're hiding behind it's not a formal House vote, and as a result, there's no official committee with the ability to subpoena at a greater level and with greater levels of enforcement. So the law says they should. The Justice Department should. How far will Merrick Garland go this year to be Biden's bagman? He's already gone a long ways, and if he's taken notes from Eric Holder, he'll go to the mat. So I wouldn't expect anything done properly.
Well, you have votes on the rule and then the actual motion right now, just to bring you up to date, 219 to 212 to go forward with this particular item this afternoon, where it's 5:36 right now on the East Coast, and it looks like that's sort of, you look at the rule vote as sort of a test vote. So it looks like that Speaker Johnson has the votes he needs to bring this thing forward, and it's going to be a done deal. That'll be interesting to see. I want to talk to you also about this standoff that continues. I mean, Congress is going to leave town here by the end of the week. They're not supposed to be back for another 3 weeks. And the president's saying, I desperately need money for Ukraine. I need more money for Israel. And the Republicans are standing the ground, both in the House and the Senate, saying, okay, fix the border and we'll talk about it. How long do you think that standoff is going to last, and who blinks first?
Well, especially the House is standing their ground right now. I mean, the first ones to blink will be Senate Republicans. I mean, Mitch McConnell and a lot of the sort of neocon folks over there are interested in Ukraine funding in a way that there would be some sort of a bipartisan vote. It's not the same in the House, and we had Speaker Johnson on our program twice in the last 2 weeks and on set with us, and he said that H.R. 2, which is the Trump enforcement mechanisms, which have passed the House, his words are a hill that we're going to die on. And we asked, other members, will you die on that hill with Speaker Johnson? And so far, they've said yes. Now the pressure will ramp and will ramp and will ramp. And all they're saying is, let's just have standalone votes. Let's vote on H.R. 2. Let's vote on Israel. Let's vote on Ukraine. People can take their positions. And as always works, the swamps wants it all in one big vote, so no one loves it. Everyone hates it, but everything passes. And that would mean more money washes into Ukraine while we're defending their border, and our border is at peak insanity. I mean, it's illegal what's being done right now. While you're at it, you should be impeaching Mayorkas as well for a complete abdication of his constitutional duty.
So I'm sort of curious, Pete, you said he came on your show 2 times, and I don't really know much about this guy, but what I see I like. You've had a chance to sort of look him in the eye, size him up. What's your take on the new Speaker of the House?
Yeah, I have the same instinct. What does he have, a 2-vote margin? So he's in an impossible position. He's been given some grace. There were some rumblings of negativity amongst the conservative base about the continuing resolution, which he said he wouldn't do, but everyone basically said, listen, the guy just got the job, give him a little bit of rope here. But, when he said boldly, you want to know my political philosophy, read the Bible. I'm going to start every morning on my knees in prayer. I'm a Constitutional Freedom Caucus conservative Republican. I believe all of those things. The challenge will be having the gavel with a caucus that isn't all on the same page. But if he can get key votes like this, and I'm watching the vote as well, that's a pretty strong demonstration of leadership and coalescing around him. So for the most part, so far so good, as long as he doesn't start cutting compromises and saying, well, the hill I'm going to die on is the next hill. I think our sovereignty and our border is that important. And frankly, in this case, good policy is good politics. Make the Senate Republicans and Democrats care more, show that they care more about Ukraine than our own border, and stare them down.
We are a month and a couple of days away from the voting in the Iowa caucuses. Well, not voting, the caucusing that takes place there. It's not voting. It's just they all get together and decide, who in these little meetings they call caucuses. It's going to happen on January 15th. And so, I'm curious, as you look at the political landscape, I don't see anything changing. It looks like it, right now, if things go forward, it's going to be Trump as doing very well in Iowa, and it doesn't appear that anything's going to be in the way between a Trump and Biden showdown. But it doesn't look real good for Biden right now.
It sure doesn't. He's underwater in every major poll, underwater in front in key states. We've had this debate for 6 months. We'll have it for 6 more until the convention as to whether or not he really will be the candidate. But you've got to step back and just look at Donald Trump in Iowa in awe of his poll numbers, of his lead. The Des Moines Register is saying we've never seen a lead like this late. It could be I have a sense it will be a huge night for Donald Trump. The question is who's second and what kind of demonstration is that, and could they coalesce? But I don't see it. And so I'll be on the ground there for Fox Nation and Fox News at a caucus site. It is an interesting, different beast. But ultimately, the polls have been consistent for a long time, and I don't see a big surprise there.
If you've done this before, because I've done Iowa several times, and I've always been impressed by the power that churches have in this process in Iowa.
Oh, big time. I mean, that's why that's the interesting dynamic of you talk to a lot of evangelicals in Iowa, and they will tell you, I'm not voting for my pastor. I'm voting for a leader. I'm voting for a commander-in-chief who will defend me. And they have remained very strong behind him, even when some other faith leaders have endorsed other candidates. But, yeah, that's a huge dynamic, and we'll see which way it cuts.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. Well, Pete, it's always good to have you on. Anything going on this weekend on your show?
Oh, Christmas coming up. We've got some fun stuff in store. Join us.
Well, okay, definitely. I always watch. Pete Hegseth from the Fox News Channel, the host of Fox and Friends on the Weekend Edition. You should watch. 49 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
Tornado recovery in Tennessee. President Biden addressing civilian casualties in Gaza and drugs here in the mid-state. Those stories and more coming up. 5 o'clock, Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
It is 56 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair. The House of Representatives has just voted to formally launch an impeachment inquiry against the President of the United States. Now, in all practical matters, that impeachment inquiry has been ongoing for some time now. Some people think that there's no requirement for a floor vote, but that by getting a floor vote, it brings more credibility to what they're doing, to their investigation. May come in handy because they may have to issue, an effort to get Hunter Biden to come to testify behind closed doors because he defied them today and did not show. So they're going to try to enforce the subpoena. And having this vote on their belt makes their request for the Department of Justice a bit more formal because they have officially now voted. It was a party line vote, 221 to 212, to confirm the launching of the impeachment inquiry. So that was an interesting vote. They're doing a vote-a-rama today. Right now, the next thing up is a vote on a resolution to condemn anti-Semitism on college campuses around the country. And surprisingly, well, perhaps not surprisingly, 126 Democrats are voting against that concept. It looks like this is going to pass as well. We're gonna reset and tell you everything that happened in this crazy dog and pony show involving Hunter Biden on Capitol Hill this morning. If you missed it, you're going to be wildly entertained by the nuttiness that happens on Capitol Hill sometimes. It's all straight ahead right here on Super Talk at 4:57. At Genesis Diamonds, they are rolling back prices and finance rates so you can get headliner gifts just in time for Christmas. Maybe it's that pair of diamond earrings or that all-new designer fashion bracelet or that dazzling 2-carat diamond ring. All the more affordable because at Genesis, they've got special pricing across the board and 0% interest financing for 5 years. So you can get that $3,000 diamond pendant and just pay $50 a month. Or that $6,000 eternity band for just $100 a month. Everything included in this amazing offer, all GIA certified natural diamonds, all lab-grown diamonds, even our luxury pre-owned Rolex watches. Imagine a $15,000 Rolex for just $250 a month. You can even finance the sales tax. Don't let the talk of rising prices and high interest rates dampen your holiday spirit. At Genesis, they are lowering prices and taking interest rates down to 0. Get that amazing gift they deserve and make your money go further than ever. Merry Christmas from Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs on approved credit only.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. He's got a latest traffic report weather forecast on the way in 5 minutes. Currently 54 degrees on Music Row. Tornado recovery continues in the mid-state after 6 people died. Over 80 were injured across the 11 counties affected in the state. Channel 4's Marissa Sulik covers a mother and her baby who didn't make it through the storm.
Floridelma Gabrielle Perez and her 2-year-old son, Anthony Elmer Mendez, died after a neighbor's mobile home fell onto theirs in the tornado. Today, we spoke with her husband, Felipe Mendez Domingo. He says he and his 2 other sons walked away from the mess alive, one with a broken hand. Mendez Domingo remembers talking with his wife Saturday afternoon. She reassured him nothing was going to happen. That's when the tornado hit and everything moved so fast.
And they were set to move to a different area in just a few weeks. In looking at power outages, yesterday it was near 8,000 total across the state. Today, under 2,000 total, around 850 of those in Davidson County. In the nation's capital, President Biden's Tuesday "I say this as a friend" warning to Israel to pull back on their military campaign in Gaza, where thousands of civilians have paid the price for the October 7th Hamas terror attack, has received some mixed reaction. When he told the U.S. ally, "You're starting to lose support around the world because of the indiscriminate bombing," National Security spokesman John Kirby told White House reporters during today's briefing that they're seeing changes in their military operation, but more needs to be done. Karen Travers.
President Biden's national security spokesman John Kirby was pushed by White House reporters Wednesday on the president's suggestion Tuesday that Israel is starting to lose international support due to what he called, quote, indiscriminate bombing in Gaza. Asked if the president believes Israel's conduct so far has been in accordance with international law, Kirby said,
"We have every expectation that Israel will do exactly what they say they're doing, which is to continue to go after the terrorist leaders and to do so in a way that minimizes civilian harm."
And meanwhile, the GOP-led House has officially voted to formalize an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. Crime in Tennessee. Hermitage man 31-year-old Shaquille Devontae Finch is facing charges following a traffic stop yesterday in Wilson County. When Finch was stopped, a deputy could smell drugs coming from the car, which gave him the right to search, and found marijuana, cocaine, powder fentanyl, pressed fentanyl pills, oxycodone pills, along with more than $30,000 and a loaded 9mm handgun that was within reach of Finch. He was immediately arrested and will now face an arraignment in Wilson County. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, it's hour number 3 of 4. We're 3/4 of the way through. We got a big show still to go because there's a lot happening. I mean, things are popping in the swamp. They're popping, and boy, it's an exciting, busy day. If you missed it just a few moments ago, the House of Representatives has voted to formalize their impeachment inquiry, and it was a party line vote. 221 to 212, so that now allows them to go forward with a bit more credibility on the investigation. It never really it changed anything because they've been investigating Joe Biden for potential violations of law, bribery, etc. And they've been doing that investigation for some time now, but the vote was official, and it sort of gives them a lot more credibility as they go forward, and they need that because there was a thing that happened today up on Capitol Hill. So, you talk about your dog and pony show. I have been to a lot of these kind of crazy situations up on Capitol Hill. Nobody knew where he was going to show up or if he was going to show up, but Hunter Biden was supposed to show up today for a closed-door deposition with the House Oversight Committee and James Comer and his crew. And he's supposed to answer questions under oath behind closed doors. And then, if he wanted, it was they were absolutely thrilled to let him have a hearing where, it would turn into a big dog and pony show. Hunter Biden, because he felt that he's special and that the rules don't apply to him, and that's part of the problem with Hunter Biden. Nobody's ever made him, toe the line or do things the right way. He's always lived a life of privilege, and nobody ever said no to him. But he wanted to just have the public hearing because he knew he could turn that into a spectacle. But James Comer, the chairman of the committee, said, no, everybody comes behind closed doors and does the deposition, and then we take you to the public hearing. But we're going to get all the information for you under oath in a quiet, respectful way, and then if you want to have the dog and pony show, that's fine. But at least we'll have our answers on the record under oath. So it's a real question. Is he going to show it all? Is he going to show up and stage sort of a big spectacle? Well, that's exactly what he did. Interestingly enough, he decided not to go to the House side. He went to the Senate side. I'll explain about that a little bit later. Here is Hunter Biden this morning with his attorney, Abby Lowell, by his side, surrounded by a bunch of reporters in a feeding frenzy trying to get answers. And he made the following statement. Again, from a little place they call the Senate swamp site.
I'm here today to answer at a public hearing any legitimate questions Chairman Comer and the House Oversight Committee may have for me. I'm here today to make sure that the House Committee's illegitimate investigations of my family do not proceed on distortions, manipulated evidence, and lies. Let me state as clearly as I can. My father was not financially involved in my business, not as a practicing lawyer, not as a board member of Burisma, not in my partnership with a Chinese private businessman, not in my investments at home nor abroad, and certainly not as an artist.
He's making the case that Dad didn't know anything about what was going on. We know that's not true. He was very well apprised of what was going on, got on the phone with him, with his business partners many times, I mean, it's just there's a lot of evidence that Joe Biden was involved, but it was this one little line that came today, which seems to be a change in the narrative that they're putting forward that caught the attention of some.
My father was not financially involved in my business.
Financially involved. That's new. We haven't heard that before. He's not saying he wasn't involved. He's simply saying not financially involved. They're qualifying this thing. They're trying to get their story straight. This was noticed by the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan.
I think the biggest takeaway was the statement from Mr. Biden where he said, my father was not financially involved in the business. That is a huge change, which means, sort of means he's involved. I think that's how anyone with common sense would read it. He's been involved, just not financially. That is a huge departure from everything they've said now for the last 3.5 years. So, as the chairman pointed out, the White House's story has changed multiple times. The Justice Department story has changed multiple times on how they handle this investigation. But the story that hasn't changed, the testimony that has been consistent and stood up to cross-examination, is the two whistleblowers. Their story has not changed, and frankly, it's been buttressed and reinforced by we've done 8 different depositions of people involved in the investigation at the Justice Department, the Hunter Biden investigation, and none of them have refuted what those guys say. So over time, it just keeps changing from the White House, and this statement today, I think, is the biggest news of the morning, I guess, along with the fact that he didn't show up, which he's supposed to do.
Yeah, he's supposed to do that. Over at the White House, the president was hounded by the press corps trying to get an answer, and this is something that Biden is going to face.
Ask the press to step out so we can begin our briefing. Thank you.
Mr. President, should your son have defied the subpoena?
Did you watch? This is the way it's going to be for Joe Biden going forward for a while. Anytime the press is within shouting distance, they're going to be shouting questions about his son. That's going to happen. Now, the question is, where is the White House on his son defying the subpoena? Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about that today.
Is the president okay with his son defying a congressional subpoena?
I'm just not going to get into specifics on that. I would have to refer you to the president's. Not the president, but Hunter's personal representatives. He's a private citizen. I'm just not going to get into it.
Not going to get into it. Well, she did get into it. But, I mean, let's go back to October of 2021. President Biden was asked about some subpoenas that had been issued by Democrats when Democrats were in charge of the House of Representatives. And the subpoena was being defied. And he was asked, what should happen in a case like this, Mr. President? Remember, Joe Biden served on committees. He was the chairman of the House Senate Judiciary Committee. He was chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee at one point. Joe Biden knows what it is to issue a subpoena. And, he was asked the question about, some subpoenas that have been issued against Republicans, and should the Department of Justice go after them?
We asked the president tonight, what is his response to this? What does he think of people who are defying these subpoenas? And should the Justice Department prosecute them? And this is what he told us.
I hope that the committee goes after them and holds them accountable.
Should they be prosecuted by the Justice
I do,
Department?
yes.
Yes, they should be prosecuted for that he believes that they should be. So does he believe his son should be prosecuted? Well, you're not going to get an answer from him on that. Here's more Karine on Hunter.
Did he spend any time watching what his son had to say outside the Capitol?
So a couple of things on that, and I want to be really clear. Look, as you know, Hunter Biden is a private citizen, and so I certainly would refer you to his representatives. Look, the president was certainly familiar with what his son was going to say, and I think what you saw was from the heart from his son. And you've heard me say this. You've heard the president say this. When it comes to the president and the first lady, they are proud of him continuing to rebuild his life. They are proud of their son.
Can you tell us when the last time the two of them spoke?
I mean, I'm also not going to get into private conversations that the president has with his family. We've been pretty consistent. That's nothing new. We're just not going to get into it from here. You want to be more specific on your...
For me, the president spent a lot of time in Congress, been around Washington a while. Does he believe that congressional subpoenas are something that individual citizens can ignore?
I'm just not going to speak to that. Just not.
Why not? Why not?
You want to be more specific on your question?
He's a former senator. He's issued subpoenas in his career. Does he believe that subpoenas have to be complied with?
I'm just going to have you speak to the White House counsel on this. I'm just not going to speak to that.
I mean, but as you heard, the president has been very consistent about that. He believes that indeed the subpoena should be obeyed.
I hope that the committee goes after them and holds them accountable.
Should they be prosecuted by the Justice
I do,
Department?
yes.
Speaking about Republicans, not his own son, but still he's on the record. All right, so here's a little inside baseball for you. I find this fascinating. You have to understand that the whole Hunter Biden show, the dog and pony show that he put on with his attorney there, happened on the Senate side of the Capitol. Let me just imagine. So if you're facing the Capitol, you have the House on the left and the Senate on the right. And right down the Senate steps and directly across the parking lot is a little brick patio. It's called the Senate swamp site. Now, the truth of the matter is it used to be a big mud hole, and reporters set up their tripods there, and they would ask senators to come out and do interviews. And the senators, they hated it because it was always muddy, and they got mud all over their shoes. I actually am responsible for the brick patio. I got that put there. I said, we need a brick patio. The architect at the Capitol agreed. Put a brick patio in. So it's not swampy, but that's still the name of the place. You say to any senator, hey, can you meet me at the swamp site to do an interview? And they know exactly what you're talking about. So it's at the swamp site. Isn't that rich? He's at the swampiest site in the entire swamp. And why did he choose the Senate side? Well, it has to do with the fact that he is defying a House subpoena. And he didn't want to do it on the House side because, he might get arrested and compelled to testify. Here's Chad Pergram from Fox News, one of the smartest guys on Capitol Hill with that little part of the story.
And let me talk a little bit about the theatrics and the geography of Capitol Hill today. You know, everybody said, okay, we're going to have Hunter Biden come in to the House side. To the House side. This was going to be a closed-door deposition in the Rayburn House office building. All of a sudden, we got word that Hunter Biden and his attorney, Abbe Lowell, were going to appear on the Senate side of Capitol Hill. And I said, well, why does that happen? You might have heard a question at the very end of that James Comer press conference where somebody said, will you ask the sergeant at arms to enforce the subpoena against Hunter Biden? Right now, Hunter Biden is out of compliance with that subpoena for a closed-door deposition. And if he showed up on the House side of Capitol Hill and had that press conference, he might be in a little more House or legal jeopardy there. But by doing this on the Senate side and saying I'm on Capitol Hill and kind of thumbing your nose at the House investigators, but being somewhere where the House sergeant at arms does not have authority, that was, some pretty good stagecraft there by Abbe Lowell to do this on Capitol Hill, but not do this on the House side of Capitol Hill and inoculate his client from that subpoena by doing this on the Senate side of the Capitol. As I say, a lot of times the House and Senate, they're part of the legislative branch. They just happen to be in the same building. They are distinct branches of government in the legislative branch here, and the power does not, cross them.
Wow.
So by doing this on the Senate side, this helped them, and the House had no authority over on the Senate side.
To nerds like us who follow this, and the ins and the outs of how everything works. And you're right, that was smart of Abbe Lowell to do that particular staging. Wow.
That's one I hadn't seen before, hadn't anticipated before.
Chad, and that's why we keep you around.
That's right.
Chad Pergram, he's just the best. And he's right. The House and Senate are very different institutions, and there's sort of a dividing line right down the middle. And the House Sergeant at Arms has no authority over on the Senate side. And vice versa, the Senate Sergeant at Arms has no authority over on the House side. Because they're separate but equal branches of the legislative branch, I guess. There's also this Speaker of the House, Johnson, put out a video that I thought was pretty compelling, talking about this issue.
Can you explain to the Americans, amid this impeachment inquiry, why you interacted with so many of your son and brother's foreign business associates?
I'm not going to comment on that. I did not, and it's just a bunch of lies.
You didn't interact with many of their business associates?
I did not. There's lies.
One of Hunter Biden's former business partners testified before the House Oversight Committee Monday in a closed-door meeting. Archer testified that Hunter Biden put his father, who was vice president at the time, on speakerphone multiple times during business meetings.
Lies.
Archer said that Hunter Biden was selling the Biden family brand. In his view, that Joe Biden had brought the most value to this brand.
It's just a bunch of lies.
And in the case of this Ukraine energy firm, Archer testified that he thought the firm would have gone out of business if they didn't have that Biden family association.
Lies.
Joe Biden was using multiple false aliases, fake email names, in his dealings about Ukraine during the Obama White House while his son was making money in Ukraine.
The evidence is so clear you cannot look away, and the Constitution requires the House to follow the truth where it leads. We have a duty to do this. We cannot stop the process.
And today they did just that. It is now 21 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Let's talk about gold. Gold has been used as a money for millennia. It's a tried and true store of value, consistent across generations. Some have observed that generational wealth has three components: land, art, and precious metals. Have you looked at interest rates? Can you afford land right now? No. Art? I don't know art. But I know precious metals because I can hold them in my hand. I can physically touch them. Land and art are hard to evaluate. Precious metals like gold, platinum, silver, well, they're practical. Inflation is currently decreasing the value of your money. That's right, and gold and silver can be a safe haven during uncertain economic times. Learn all about the importance of owning precious metals by going to Nashville Gold and Coin. I mean, maybe you have some gold that was given to you, or you inherited it. You're just not sure what it's worth. Or you're curious about precious metals and want to learn more. Nashville Gold and Coin's the place to turn. They are always available to discuss your options, educate you on the precious metals market, so you should do what I did. Go to Nashville's real money source, Nashville Gold and Coin, NashvilleGoldandCoin.com to set up your one-on-one appointment.
Today's show happened because I saw a comment. He said, why don't you do something on doves and dove fields and how to find them and things like that. So yeah, all right. Good idea. It's past the opening day, but like you said, it can work. Yeah. Because the season is long. It runs for 90 days and there's 3 segments, so we're going to cover all that today. Let's rattle off the season. September 1 through September 28th is the first segment of Dove, and then October 14th through November 5th, and then December 8th through January 15th. 15 is your bag limit. So September 1 is opening day, and that's at noon in Tennessee.
September 1st has been one of those days. I mean, you'll see guys. I mean, they'll take off work. Have big cooking and getting together with friends, and it's kind of neat to see.
Yeah. Historically, it's a huge social event. I'd say the majority of the hunters probably hunt opening day, opening weekend, and then won't pick up a shotgun until next year. So,
we have 2 other segments besides this one. Running in October, and then even all the way through January 15th. There's a lot of opportunity throughout the year.
On our website, tnwildlife.org, on our homepage, you can click the button there to dove hunting info and fields is what the button's titled. It's got all the information on dove hunting. You can find the fields there. So let's talk about how to find a field. You click on Region 2, it pulls up the options that are available, and get down to Bark Camp Barrens, and you see it's open statewide. So the hunting's not over there. There's still opportunity. Even though we had a big opening day, let it die down a little bit and get back in there. You're going to have some good hunting, I think, there, sounds like, anyway.
The House has now voted to authorize the ongoing impeachment inquiry into President Biden, a fatal crash in Tennessee, plus some money news concerning interest rates. That and more 5:30 Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
Well, it's time for Mac Morey's Wide World of Sports. Here is the host of your program. I was distracted here. The one, the only, Mac Morey.
Hey! I didn't know if I was coming on. I didn't know what happened. But the anticipation kept me going. I was excited.
I had to turn my microphone up.
That usually helps.
The first thing about radio, know when your microphone is on and off.
It's important, yeah.
All right, Mac Maury, I didn't get the memo today, so tell me what we're going to be talking about in the wild world of sports.
Well, we have talked about this person a couple of times on this segment, and we've monitored his whereabouts and if he possibly could be coming to Tennessee, if there could be some sort of trade. He's a legend. He's well respected in the game of football. But right now, it hasn't been his best year. It hasn't been his best season. His name's Bill Belichick, the New England Patriots head coach, widely respected as the greatest head coach of all time. And I would share that opinion.
Wait. Tom Landry?
Yep, Tom Landry's great.
If you're just looking at Super Bowls, I mean, hey.
Yeah.
Super Bowls and longevity. Yeah. I mean, 2+ decades, and he changed when the game changed. That's tough to do. He adapted. But he hasn't necessarily done that these past few years. He's had some struggle adapting. I mean, this is a New England Patriots team that's just putrid. I mean, just awful. I mean, from every aspect. And it's not just because of the way they're coached, just because of the roster. And guess who manages that? That's Bill Belichick. He's also the general manager of this team. He's been drafting for them for the past long time, and they haven't had a good draft in years. But the report came out today that the owner of the New England Patriots, Robert Kraft, made the decision back in Week 10 to part ways with Bill Belichick.
Really?
That he said, it's been over a month that he said, yeah, my mind's made up. They lost to the Indianapolis Colts. I believe that game was in Germany. And he said, nope, that's it. I'm done. And so that report hasn't been confirmed. Obviously, they asked Bill Belichick today at his press conference, and Bill did the Bill Belichick thing. Yep, looking at Kansas City. Yep. Looking at Kansas City. That's who they're playing next week.
Yeah.
And so that's all he's going to do. He's not going to say anything like that, and he's not really going to acknowledge that those reports exist, and they may have some validity. The Patriots are currently 3-10. They have 4 games left. And
wow, that's I had not kept up with them. That's horrible.
Oh, they are an atrocity to football. I mean, they are.
Well,
they are
but
truly
there have
terrible.
been these whispers about Belichick perhaps coming to Nashville,
Yep.
and the Titans have not played that well, although they did a remarkable thing in this last game. It really pulled one out against the Dolphins, and I think that sort of maybe hushed the whispering. But I mean, do you think something is in the offing?
I would say no. I think
you're right.
I think they're right. I think some Tennessee fans would be excited because Bill Belichick come and coach this new team, new quarterback. This could be his next Tom Brady. But also, a lot of Titans fans get upset with maybe Mike Vrabel's attitude or lack of enthusiasm. Times that by 10 if we had Bill Belichick.
Exactly.
I mean, because he's not going to give you anything. He's not going to give you a lot of responses that you want. He doesn't have that Southern charm that maybe some Titans fans would want. Bill Belichick doesn't have that.
Good way to put it.
No, he doesn't have any Southern charm, that's for sure. No. Well, that's interesting. I wonder then, the big question was it Brady or was it Belichick? That was always the question when Brady was there playing and bringing them to Super Bowl after Super Bowl. Was it Brady? I mean, because it seems to be that the question's been answered.
I think you could say it was pretty much Brady.
Yeah,
a lot of it anyway.
Yeah, I'm against all that. I think it was both of them, and Tom Brady got to go to another team that was ready. They had a great Super Bowl roster, and they had a great coach. Bruce Arians was a fantastic coach who had been to a Super Bowl himself before. Bill Belichick was left with nothing. If Bill Belichick got another quarterback like Tom Brady, who knows? Maybe we'll see. Let's not forget they had a rookie in Mac Jones a few years ago out of Alabama, and they were great until he decided to forget how to play football, it seems. But they were all right for a minute, So I don't know. I think they're both fantastic in their own right.
All right, we'll leave it right there. Time to take off the sports hat, put on the news hat, because it's news time on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.5:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 51 degrees in Nashville. Full weather forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Starting in the nation's capital, the House has voted to authorize the ongoing impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Here's Stephen Portnoy.
The measure passed on a straight party line vote with no GOP defectors.
The resolution is adopted.
Republicans say by formalizing the impeachment inquiry, the House will have a stronger case to make in court for documents and testimony that they say the White House has so far blocked. Democrats say the GOP is on a fruitless fishing expedition and won't be able to turn up evidence that as vice president, Joe Biden acted on behalf of his son and brother's clients.
And this just in with some news in Tennessee. An expedited federal disaster declaration for the areas affected by the tornadoes that ripped through the state this Saturday has now been approved by President Joe Biden. So that'll make recovery assistance available to the 4 counties hit by the tornado outbreak and severe storms. We'll keep you updated with that right here. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Staying in Tennessee, a teenager passed away today in a crash on Highway 41. It happened in Goodlettsville this morning. Around 5 a.m., a 17-year-old boy was hit by a Dodge Ram near Dickerson Pike. The boy was in the middle of the road. He was transported to a hospital. His mother was by his side. He later passed away at the hospital. The driver of that truck cooperated fully with the investigation. Still unclear currently why the boy was in the middle of a busy street. And some money news. The chairman of the Federal Reserve took questions from reporters after the announcement from the Fed that they would not raise interest rates again. Liz Landers has more on what Powell said about the possibility of a U.S. recession.
The chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, spoke with reporters after the Fed kept interest rates the same for the 3rd time in a row of their meeting. He was asked about whether the United States economy has avoided a recession.
I think you can say that there's little basis for thinking that the economy is in a recession now.
Powell cautioned that there's always a probability of a recession in the next year, no matter what the economy is doing, and it's far too early to declare victory.
And that is the latest news. Traffic, weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Time to head down to the swamp. A lot of swampalicious stuff going on these days. Whew. First of all, today, a lot of people were watching for the economic news coming from the Fed. The question is, are rates going to go up? Are they going to stay the same? Or are they going to go down? And the answer came from the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, that rates are going to stay where they are right now. This is very important for people trying to buy a home. You know, you look at your credit card rates, they're all tied to the interest rates the Fed sets. And as it turns out, they decided to leave things where they were, but they also left a bit of information in there that suggested that over the coming year, they expect, they don't promise, they expect they'll be cutting rates several times. Of course, they'll be cutting rates. It's an election year. You can count on that. Here's Jerome Powell from today.
Inflation has eased from its highs, and this has come without a significant increase in unemployment. That's very good news. But inflation is still too high. Ongoing progress in bringing it down is not assured, and the path forward is uncertain. Today, we decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged and to continue to reduce our securities holdings. Given how far we have come, along with the uncertainties and risks that we face, the committee is proceeding carefully. Yeah,
a 22-year high. It's just a hair under 8 right now. And here's the thing. The market really liked this news. I think it's pretty much what they expected, that rates were going to stay the same. So that decision was sort of baked in. But they liked the news about, next year. So the Dow hit an all-time high today, 37,000 and some change. That's really quite remarkable. So the indices were all very green today. Very green today. We'll keep an eye on that. The president keeps talking about Bidenomics and how, they're working for people. Nobody's buying that because they know what it's like. Inflation and the inflation, the price, the gap between what prices have done and wages has gone, there's a 20-point gap. In other words, inflation went up about 17, almost 18%, and the wages went down about 2.9% over the time that the president has been in office. That's a 20-point gap. And so it's really tough out there. About 2/3 of households and the bottom 20% of the income bracket pay over half their income for rents and utility. This, according to a Breitbart story, quoting a Harvard Joint Center Housing Studies recently found. The challenge for low-income families to afford basic housing costs suggests President Joe Biden's so-called Bidenomics of growing the economy from the middle out and the bottom up is not working. The federal government says shelter should consume 30% or less of a household income. Only about half of Americans and renter households fall within the guidelines, according to the Times. So, poor people are paying more. The average payment, Chris, here's a question for you. In America today, what is the average mortgage payment?
Ooh, average. $2,200.
Way low.
Wow. Sorry.
$3,322. The average monthly mortgage payment has soared to $3,322 under Biden, up from the average monthly mortgage payment of $1,787 when President Trump was in office. Let's just repeat those numbers. When Trump was the president, the average mortgage payment was about, let's call it $1,800, just round it up. And now under Biden, it's $3,300. It's more than doubled.
Well, almost doubled.
Well, almost doubled.
Yeah.
Good grief. Math, Homeownership has become a pipe dream for more Americans. So, these interest rates being so high is the reason for that. And the bottom line is that they're not going to go down immediately. But, let's talk. One thing that you can always expect is that, probably they'll do everything they can to bring gas prices down and make sure that mortgage rates drop in an election year. That's just the way it always works. You can track it. It's true. Let's see what else we got. Ford. This is news about, stuff having to do with gasoline-powered vehicles, etc. Well, in Washington State, they are trying to outlaw gas-powered leaf blowers. Now, let me just say this for the record. I mean, we have more common sense here in Tennessee. I don't think that's likely to be something that the state legislature is considering, but they'll get my steel leaf blower when they rip it off my back. I mean, I got one of them holster up, put it on your shoulders. I got a steel leaf blower that gets it done, man. I'm telling you. And it's gas powered. But I'm telling you, I can blow leaves into the next county. It's awesome. I love it. There's nothing I enjoy more than going out there and just blowing things around. You'll never get my steel leaf blower.
I'm all for banning them before 8 a.m., though.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's just good neighborly. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I try to wait till 9 o'clock at least before I launch a mower, mow the yard, or crank up a chainsaw, whatever it is. If it's going to make noise, I don't do it until 9 or 10 o'clock.
That's reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, that means that basically I've lost a couple of good hours, but that's okay because you don't want your neighbors to be mad at you. But they're actually thinking this is the craziness that goes on with these Democrats. They want anything that runs on gas to be outlawed. They want you to drive electric cars. They want you to have electric water heaters. They want you to do this. They want you to do that. They don't think at all about where we're going to get the power to power these things. But, we'll figure that out when we have a crisis. Ford delivers another blow to Biden's energy transition pipe dream. President Joe Biden's, this is from townhall.com, Joe Biden's green energy transition pipe dream suffered another setback this week, courtesy of Ford Motor Company. It seems that billion-dollar losses, inflated costs, high interest rate, lagging demand have made its attempt to comply with the administration's mandates untenable, and they're taking action that's sure to disappoint the likes of Biden, his energy elf, Jennifer Granholm. They didn't say elf, that's just me. And climate czar John Kerry. He'll be apoplectic about this. They're basically saying we can't meet the standards. And so they're asking that the standards be loosened. Tesla today recalls millions of vehicles amid a probe into its autopilot crashes. The Tesla Models 3, S, X, and Y between 2012 and 23 and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration have come together and have been basically looking at their system after a bunch of high-profile crashes when they were in autopilot mode. And so they said Tesla's autopilot system may not have sufficient controls in place to prevent an accident. The company will offer owners a free software update that adds more driver alerts and controls to further encourage them to remain attentive while using the autopilot to steer within a lane. These updates will vary vehicle to vehicle according to the hardware. They may include making visual alerts more prominent, simplify how drivers engage and disengage the automatic steering function, and checking in with drivers more if they're using autopilot in certain circumstances. So basically, if you have in many places you have a recall, you have to take it into the dealership and they got to do something. With a Tesla, you simply park it in your driveway next to a Wi-Fi connection and it'll automatically update.
I think they have their own internet, though.
Yeah, they do. I guess they could do that as well. Sure. Mm-hmm. I know in my Ford truck, I get software updates on occasion. They just sort of I've set it on automatic and they automatically update.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm told, they warned me one time, they said, your car will be updating tonight after midnight. If you're going to be driving after midnight, you need to cancel this. Because there's a little while the car can't, if it's in the middle of an update, you can't start the car. Isn't that something?
It's kind of scary.
It is kind of scary. But, so far I've had no problems. There's this. U.S. regulators move toward mandating surveillance in cars to detect drunk drivers. See, now, that sounds like a noble idea, right? But some people are worried that the monitors can be used to monitor people inside the car. Auto safety regulators announced Tuesday new cars in the United States may soon be required to have surveillance technology that detects drunk or impaired driving. The advance notice will help set potential alcohol impairment detection technology in all new vehicles. Such detection devices are required as part of the bipartisan infrastructure law passed in 2021. There's all kinds of stuff they stick in those bills. Patty Trottenberg, the U.S. Department of Transportation's deputy secretary, said in the statement, "It is tragic that drunk driving crashes are one of the leading causes of roadway fatalities. Too many lives are lost." They say that 3,384 people were killed in drunk driving crashes That's $280 billion in lost wages. They say that alcohol-impaired deaths hit nearly a 15-year high, with more than 1,000 people killed due to drunk driving crashes in 21. We are trying to see whether we can get it done. Does the technology exist in a way that is going to work every time? Acting Highway Transportation Safety Administrator Ann Carlson said, if it's 99.9% accurate, you could have 1 million false positives. That's right. If it's 99.9% accurate, there would still be 1 million people who would be denied the ability to start their car or drive their car because the system thinks they're drunk. These false positives could be somebody trying to get to the hospital for an emergency. So it's got to be 100% foolproof. How do you make that happen? I don't know. They've said sensors embedded in the steering wheel or dashboard can detect levels of alcohol and carbon dioxide in a driver's breath. Touch-based sensors in the steering wheel could use infrared lights to determine the blood alcohol content in capillaries just below the skin's surface. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I hate drunk driving. I think it's reprehensible. But I don't know that I trust the technology enough. We'll see.
And what would you do, though? I mean, just think about it. If you got in your car and you had not been drinking and you needed to go somewhere, emergency or not, and it thinks you're drunk, what are you going to do? You can't do anything. I guess you just have to keep trying, retry it again, and retry it until it says, okay, you're not drunk.
I guess. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, it could really strand people. I mean, for example, let's say you go out to dinner. I'm like 275 right now. 275. If I go out and have a meal and I drink a glass of white wine with my meal, I am not drunk. Not even close. Not even near it. No way could I be close to being drunk, because that's not much alcohol in a body my size.
Mm-hmm.
But if I go out and try to start my car, they're going to say, your car starts sniffing you. I smell alcohol. I'm not starting. Would that hack me off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. 50 minutes after the hour, 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Stinky, stinky, stinky. Yeah, that's what it was like if you had some auto places when you go to get your car repaired. Smelly, greasy old rags lying around, a countertop that you wouldn't dare touch with a 10-foot pole. I'll tell you something else that stinks about repair shops. Some of them keep your car forever. They're not honest, and they don't call you back when they say they will. If that was your last experience at a vehicle repair shop, it's time to try something different. Try the folks over at Eurofix. Eurofix takes the stink out of European auto repair. At Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit. No high-pressure sales tactics. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. Never pay dealer prices. Eurofix now in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and Mount Juliet, right across from the Dairy Queen. Call 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEuroFix.com. That's myEuroFix.com, and tell them your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios, and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, Go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
6 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 49 degrees in Nashville. Latest forecast and a traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Starting the nation's capital, House Republicans have voted on a resolution to formalize an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. Andy Field.
On a party line vote, House Republicans passing a resolution for a formal impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Although they've been actually doing that for months, Republican Tom Cole saying it's the only way to back up documented requests he says the president has ignored.
We will secure the evidence we need and uncover the facts we need to make the full and fair determination.
Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries claiming Republicans are only doing this
because Donald Trump, the puppet master, has directed extreme MAGA Republicans to launch a political hit job.
ABC political contributing correspondent Rachel Bade.
There's this sort of legal theory out there that once you're in an impeachment, you have the strongest potential hand in a court fight.
Republicans have yet to show definitive evidence President Biden has done anything impeachable.
Right now in Tennessee, tornado recovery continues in the mid-state after 6 people died. Over 80 were injured across the 11 counties affected in the state. Channel 4's Marissa Sulik covers a mother and her baby who didn't make it through the violent storm.
Floridelma Gabrielle Perez and her 2-year-old son, Anthony Elmer Mendez, died after a neighbor's mobile home fell onto theirs in the tornado. Today, we spoke with her husband, Felipe Mendez Domingo. He says he and his 2 other sons walked away from the mess alive, one with a broken hand. Mendez Domingo remembers talking with his wife Saturday afternoon. She reassured him nothing was going to happen. That's when the tornado hit and everything moved so fast.
In tracking power outages in Tennessee yesterday, it was around 8,000 total across the state. Today, under 2,000 total, and around 750 of those right in Davidson County. And this just in, an expedited federal disaster declaration for the areas affected by Saturday's tornadoes have been approved by President Joe Biden. That was announced by Governor Bill Lee. The expedited major disaster declaration will make recovery assistance available to the four counties hit by the tornado outbreak and those severe storms. Staying in Tennessee, a new audit shows no improvement in the speed at which people get their unemployment benefits.
News Channel 5 says the state comptroller's office claims people still don't get them on time. The same audit says the Tennessee Department of Labor doesn't have enough staff to meet demand, and only 9% of millions of callers actually connect to a live agent. To sum it up, many of the same problems during the pandemic are still happening. No benefits for months after initial claims, and no one to talk to about it when you call. In response, department officials said they'll develop a policy and procedure for reviewing customer service performance and review necessary staffing needs. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
And that is the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Good evening, everybody. 6:06 on Super Talk 99.7. We've reached the fourth and final hour of our extravaganza. We're here until 7. Then Mark Levin will take over. He'll carry on throughout the evening, as he always does. So we're glad that you're here with us. We're also honored to have been found to be one of the top evening drive broadcasts in the entire country. We're in the top 20. According to one poll that came out today. And it's always a pleasure to know that we have found favor with folks. I mean, we are nothing without an audience, and I want you to personally know that I deeply appreciate the support that you've shown me. I posted the little thing that said we were in the top 20 and got a lot of really lovely comments. And I do read these comments, and I do appreciate them. Thank you very much. Thought we'd spend some time this hour talking about wacky stuff. Some wacky stuff is going on. This one caught my eye, and I thought, really, are you kidding me? Really? Is this true? But apparently it is true. You know, the FBI has people who are trained, highly effective people, trained to go kick down doors and do that when it needs to be done. You know, the tactical people. They're like the FBI SWAT team. These are big, burly people who can blow down a door, throw out a flashbang. They know how to enter a building and take people hostage. I mean, they know how to do all this stuff, and they're very, very good at it. They train at this endlessly. But apparently now, I'm not making this up, in addition to all of the other kind of tactical training they get, they apparently are now training in meditation and mindfulness. This is a story I found in Bongino.com. According to the FBI's website, Critical Incident Response Team, the CIRG, exists to assist with things like child abductions, crisis management, hostage negotiations, criminal investigative analysis, special weapons and tactics, so basically SWAT. The FBI established the CIRG, that's C-I-R-G, in 1994. This followed the public outrage over Ruby Ridge. Currently, the CIRG is comprised of surveillance and an aviation section, strategic information and operation, that's intelligence, and then a tactical session. And for the layperson, the CIRG is the high-speed, low-drag, door-kicking, flash-bang-throwing, cool guy operator image we all see on the television. But they're apparently spending some time now in meditation. Most Americans may be surprised to learn how the FBI's elite tactical personnel are spending their time practicing mindfulness and meditation rather than honing their marksmanship. Not making this up. I mean, imagine you're an FBI SWAT team. You're about to enter a building. And as you kick down the door, take deep cleansing breaths. Be aware of things going on around you, but do not let your heart rate get elevated. Stay calm, cool, and collected. They practice the 4-5-6 breathing, mindfulness walking, and something known as feet, seat, and jaw. I don't know what that is. I don't know. Feet, seat, and jaw. McGee's message to the FBI tactical operators was, let your thoughts happen and pay attention to your body as they occur. Following the sensory practices, McGee taught participants attention practices. He called them attention skills building, body scan, to try to balance between being relaxed and being alert. That's what I try to do every day here on this show. I try to practice between being relaxed and alert. Sometimes I'm too relaxed and sometimes I'm too alert. Finding that balance is hard. I can identify with the difficult job they must have. It's intended to create a stable, present, and resilient mind. He concluded that mindfulness and meditation isn't just about how to perform at work. It's about being better in your life, a better family member, a better friend, and a better neighbor. I'm done with that.
Say, while I'm practicing my breathing, you mind putting these handcuffs on there, buddy? Yeah, just cinch him up tight.
Yeah, that's right. And then as you grab the perpetrator by the back of the neck, make sure you don't bump his head when you put him in the squad car. That's nuts. That's nuts. Here's something else that, I mean, this is real. I mean, we thought this was maybe a joke, but it's really not a joke. Over in Memphis, Memphis Elementary School says hands are tied as the Satanic Temple is set to hold after-school Satan clubs on school grounds. Tennessee Star has this story. Chimney Rock Elementary School in Memphis issued a statement after an after-school Satan club organized by the Satanic Temple and Reason Alliance is scheduled to take place on the school grounds next month. On its website, the Satanic Temple, the primary religious satanic organization around the world, says its mission is to encourage benevolence and empathy, reject tyrannical authority, and advocate practical common sense, oppose injustice, and undertake noble pursuits, all while honoring the devil, I guess. I don't know. The Chimney Rock Elementary School released the following statement. So this is real. We understand some of you have questions regarding the recent approval of a facility rental to the Satanic Temple, a federally recognized nonprofit organization. Oh, well, that makes it all better. At Public School District, we're committed to upholding the principles of the First Amendment, which guarantees equal access to all nonprofit organizations seeking to use our facilities after school. This means we cannot approve or deny a request based solely on the organization's viewpoints or beliefs. Board Policy 7002, it was an update from Board Policy 7001, I guess, outlines this commitment, allowing community groups and government entities to rent school property outside of school hours. These gatherings are not school-sponsored and are not endorsed or promoted by the Memphis Shelby County School System. The Satanic Temple, recognized by the IRS as a 501c3 public charity, falls under this policy and has the same legal rights to use our facilities after school as any other nonprofit organization. It will be renting the facility in January after school. You may read more about the organization in an online news story from the Washington Post. Oh, thank you for the helpful link to the Washington Post. We understand this topic may raise questions. Thank you for your understanding and continued partnership. But what if you don't want to be a partner with somebody that supports a satanic organization? Maybe you don't want to be understanding. I can understand why you would not be. The Satanic Temple said in its after-school club schedule for January 10th in the elementary school's library, it will create a fun and inviting place for students to learn and make new friends while worshiping the devil. I added that last part. A flyer for the events says, I'm not making it. Hey, kids, let's have fun after school at the Satan Club.
Oh, man.
I don't know. The Satanic Temple also said children who attend the club will learn benevolence and empathy, critical thinking, problem solving, creative expression, personal sovereignty, and compassion, all while worshiping the devil.
Kind of covers all the bases, doesn't it?
Well, you know, this is a tough one. I mean, it really is. I mean, I believe in the First Amendment, and you know, look, for example, here in Watertown, there was a church that was starting up, and they use the middle school on Sundays. There's nobody at school on Sundays, and they rent it out. Very common thing for churches when they're starting up to rent out a school space. And you know, you have to put up, I mean, there's a whole thing you have to go through to get approved for that. You got to put up you know, insurance bond and the whole 9 yards, and you got to make sure that you leave the place as you found it. So you have to set up a church in the auditorium and then take it down. And, you know, and they did that for a long, long time. And a lot of places do that. So, I mean, how can you say yes to that and then no to this? I mean, if you believe, I mean, I don't know how you could if you were going to be consistent in your policy. What would be the reason? You disagree with them? Well, a lot of people, you know, I don't like to hang around with them, but a lot of people disagree with the church teachings. You know, I don't know. It's a First Amendment and all that. But, you know, the only way you resolve that is you say nobody gets to rent the place. And then you'll be throwing out a lot of good people who use the school space for other stuff. I don't know. Sticky wicket, as they say. Not today, Satan, but on, what is it, January 10th. Taylor Swift attended a comedy show that raised money for a Gaza charity. Now, we just were praising Tay-Tay for giving $1 million to an organization that will help the people affected by the tornado. Now, you can't help but love her for that. But I have to question this. I mean, why would you want to, if you're like, apparently she's the person of the year, Times person of the year, I'm told. If you're that person and that influential, and you know that this is going to be controversial, why would you do it? Unless you strongly felt that you wanted to support Gaza and the Palestinian cause. Singer Taylor Swift attended a comedy show that featured comedian Rami Youssef and benefited a Gaza charity, according to reports. She was photographed along Friday night alongside Selena Gomez. They're tight. They're tight buddies. Where one goes, you often see the other. They were not the only celebrities in attendance. Some other people were there who I don't even know who they are. I mean, honestly, I don't know who they are. But apparently they're people that are popular with the kids these days.
Throw a name at me.
All right. Anna Taylor-Joy.
No clue.
Zoe Kravitz. Is that probably part of...
That's Lenny Kravitz's daughter.
I would guess that Kravitz is an unusual name.
Yeah.
Cara Delevingne? Vigne? I don't know how you say that.
Heard that name before, I think. Yeah. But I don't know who it is.
Vogue called it a good old-fashioned girls' night out. Both Swift and Gomez opted for the miniskirt and tall boots combination for their evening out at Rami Youssef's stand-up show. The American Near East Refugee Aid is a charity that provides, they say, humanitarian aid to refugees in vulnerable communities in Palestine and Lebanon. Not Lebanon, Lebanon. Luke Combs is sick over a lawsuit against a Florida woman. Have you heard this story? It's a pretty interesting story. Country music star Luke Combs is coming to the rescue of one fan, according to the Tennessean, who was sued for copyright infringement. In an Instagram video posted Wednesday, Combs responded to a lawsuit in which a fan was ordered to pay $250,000 for selling items using his likeness. According to a story by News Channel 8 in Tampa Bay, Florida, Combs fan Nicole Harness was selling tumblers and a T-shirt through Amazon, including one Combs-themed tumbler, which turned a profit of $380. You're not supposed to use other people's likenesses, but a lot of people don't know the ins and outs of all that kind of stuff. It happens. I mean, initially Harness was unaware of the lawsuit until she discovered she no longer had access to the money she earned via her Amazon storefront. She then discovered the lawsuit notice in her junk email folder, ordering her to pay $250,000 to Luke Combs for a profit of $380. According to News Channel 8, Harness suffers from congestive heart failure, and selling the products online was her only job. Combs responded by saying he was completely and utterly unaware of the lawsuit. According to Combs, there is a company responsible for going after corporations making counterfeit items for millions of dollars, and somehow they came. This woman Harness came to their attention. Combs said after speaking with Harness, he pledged to double the money locked in her Amazon account. That brings it to $11,000. Combs said he would also be releasing his own tumbler with all the proceeds going to Harness to help her pay her medical bills. Now, now that's, I understand you're an artist and you want to make sure people aren't infringing on the copyright material and aren't abusing your likeness in a way that you wouldn't want. So you hire a firm and they say, we'll watch this for you. And you're not in daily contact with them, and you don't know exactly what they're doing. But if somebody's out there selling materials, Luke Combs materials, and making a big profit, you'd want somebody going out there and saying, you can't do that. You're selling my likeness without my permission. So apparently this company got a little aggressive towards somebody who really should have just been ignored. I was completely shocked when I saw this morning. It made me sick. This is not something that I would ever do. This is not the kind of person I am. I'm not greedy in any way, shape, or form. Money is the last thing on my mind. Well, it's easy to say that when you've got a lot of it.
I'll say.
I promise you guys that. Additionally, Combs said he'll be flying Harness and her family out to one of his shows this year so he may give her a hug and apologize in person. Look, I think he is a good guy. You know, he apparently had a place not far from my old place down in 30A. And he had a big boat and has made some investments down there. I understand some of the little shops down there are owned by him or partially owned by him. So, you know, and people down there who have encountered him say really nice things about him. You know, I didn't like it the other day when Luke Combs apparently threw a little shade in the direction of Blake Shelton. Did you hear about that?
I did not.
No, I don't have the story at my fingertips, but I mean, he apparently said, you know, it's one thing to go out and do records and have #1 hits. It's another thing to ride on your television personality.
Ooh.
But Luke Combs has one of those shows, right? Doesn't he do?
I not that I'm aware of. But
No,
I could be wrong. I don't know.
Somebody else. I don't know. But anyway, he was throwing a little shade in the direction. I thought, you know, well, that's tacky. That's not necessary. Why would you do that? I mean, Blake Shelton, everybody loves Blake Shelton. He was the king of The Voice. Boy, I've been watching The Voice. You know, me and Cabana Wife, Monday and Tuesday night, that's our entertainment.
Appointment television, huh?
We watch, and I got to tell you, can I just say, this year on The Voice is the best year ever. And there were a lot of people who were eliminated last night who were, I mean, amazingly talented. Really amazingly talented. But there was also some people who got through. We're getting down to the finals. And it was sad to see some of these people who I know were really quality talents have to go. I'm way over, aren't I? 23 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. It's, let's call it 28 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air for just about another half hour and change as we prepare to hand it over to Mark Levin. I just want to say I had recently, Chris, the opportunity to work with a bunch of kids from Watertown High School. They have a drama department over there, and I've told you about this little project, if you may have heard me talk about it before, where they're telling the story through dramatic interpretation of the history of Watertown. Mm-hmm. And it's fascinating. And I put these together in little audio vignettes. I had 14 kids in this studio that you see behind me. And they came in and recorded their parts, and then I went over to my Pro Tools rig and started putting this all together with sound effects and music and the whole 9 yards. And then this weekend, the drama students did a dramatic presentation over at the high school. And it was lovely to go over and get to see the kids, show off their acting chops. And a great time was had by all. A special thanks to Edie Pope for including me in this project. What happens is these little vignettes that we have produced will be put on a server somewhere. And as you walk around Watertown, you may see a QR code. And all you do is take a picture of the QR code with your phone, and you'll get a link. And when the link comes up, it will start to tell you the story of that particular building or this particular historical fact about Watertown. And there are 5, and then apparently next semester we're going to work on a few more, so that hopefully we'll have about 10 of them before it's all said and done. And it's been a great little project, but I really deeply enjoyed spending time with these kids. Amazing. We talk so much about the youth of today and the youth of today. I don't know how it works for you and the kids you're exposed to, but if this sampling of kids that I worked with is any example, I feel real good about the future. Nice. I do. I mean, they were really, really great kids and really buttoned up and well-mannered and couldn't have enjoyed any project more. It was really fun to watch them, and I got a special thank you.
Yeah?
From the stage. Yeah, it was great.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had cake, so it's if there's cake, I'm gonna be there. That's right, winner, chicken dinner. 6:30 now on Super Talk 99.7. Let me tell you about the folks over at Busy Bee. True story. On Saturday morning, I awakened to find out that I had no hot water in my house. And I knew that, that hot water heater was about 20 years old and needed to be replaced. I've been putting it off. And now it's Saturday. I got 100 people coming to my house for a party, some people spending the night, and I got no hot water. So I called my friends over at Busy Bee. I called that same number that I tell you about, 775-7833. They answered. I explained my situation. They got somebody over there by noon of that day. I had a brand new hot water heater cranking out lots of hot water. I mean, then people say, well, Brian, you do their ads. Sure, they're going to do that for you. No, this is the thing I think they do this for everyone. If you explain your situation, if you have an urgent need, they'll get on it. I've had great experiences with these folks, and I think that you will too. You might want to sign up to be a member of the Beehive Club. When they came by and looked at my hot water heater, they warned me about this. I decided to put it off. But you can be a member for $99. You get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, one at the beginning of heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges 24/7 and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your official Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com. "38 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Good evening. I'm Brian. Glad you're with us. I want to do some chalk talk on the numbers and where we are. We are a month and 2 days away from the voting in Iowa, where the corn is as high as an elephant's eye.
Did you make that up, or is that
No,
that
that's
real?
corn's as high. It's from a song. Yeah. And by the way, corn's supposed to be knee high by the 4th of July. Did you know that?
I have heard that before.
Yeah. That's what I've been told. I don't know anything about growing corn. But let's look at, I do know something about politics, and some of these polls are looking very interesting. Let me run through a couple. Let's look back several days. This week, we've seen polls that that really are shocking, quite frankly. In Michigan, for example, the CNN poll, Trump versus Biden, has Trump leading Biden in Michigan by 10 points. Wow. I mean, you know what? That's amazing. And they say that, apparently the Democrats are really worried about Michigan, and they should be if this number is correct, because Michigan has a great number of what do they call them? Arab American voters. There's a lot of Arab American voters who don't like the president's policy, which they perceive as being pro-Israel. I'm not sure I perceive it as being all that pro-Israel, but they do. And they're not going to vote. And there's a lot of people who will vote for other candidates, but they're not going to vote for Biden. So Trump leads by 10 points over Biden in a CNN poll. If DeSantis happened to be the nominee, which he won't be, DeSantis would win in Michigan by 7. And in Michigan, if Nikki Haley happened to be the nominee, she would win by 12 in Michigan. That's sort of strange, but she appeals to the middle, and the middle likes her. And so she would pick up a lot of folks in the middle that would not vote for Trump. But that's interesting, isn't it? And then they do this thing. They say, well, what if it's Trump versus Biden versus Kennedy versus West? The numbers would come down like this. Trump 39, Biden 31, Kennedy 20, and West 6. Trump would win by 8. Still, that would be considered sort of a landslide in that particular state. Let's see. In Georgia, they have him up by 5. Trump up by 5. And let's look at the general election poll that came out yesterday from Morning Consult. This is the general election, Trump versus Biden. It would be Trump by 2. Trump would win by 2. And let's see. When you talk about the Republican presidential nomination, who's going to be the Republican nominee, these numbers just, I mean, they all look very strong for Trump. The Morning Consult poll has Trump 67, DeSantis 13, his nearest competitor. Trump would carry nationwide by about 54 points. I mean, how do you overcome that kind of lead? I mean, what has to happen for him to have that lead melt away? 54 points ahead of DeSantis nationwide. Reuters has it at 50. Trump leads his other Republican candidates by 50. And Reuters says it's Trump 61, DeSantis 11, Haley 11, Ramaswamy 5, Christie 2, Hutchison, Burgum, and others hardly noticeable. What does DeSantis have to do? What does Haley have to do to overcome a 50-point lead by Donald Trump? A lot of people say, well, he could end up being convicted on one of these cases, 91 charges against him. You know what? I don't think it makes a whit of difference. I don't think it makes, because, I mean, he is Obi-Don Kenobi, and there's nothing you can do to hurt him. Because
if you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
He really is. I mean, every time something bad happens to him, his numbers go up. Well, people are really lining up in the Republican Party behind Donald Trump. A couple of things came in. New Hampshire, the Trafalgar Group, that's a Republican polling organization, wanted to know how the Republican presidential primary was working in New Hampshire because there's been some talk about Haley doing well there. Okay, here it is. Trump 45, Haley 18. Christie is number 3 at 14. DeSantis is number 4 at 11. Ramaswamy comes in with 10. Hutchison comes in with 0. So that's the second place you go. You do Iowa first, then you do. So look, I'm telling you, what I'm basically telling you here is you get Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, where, again, Trump is expected to do well, even though it's Nikki Haley's home state. She was governor there. By the time we get to South Carolina, there's not going to be any doubt. So very early on, it looks like Trump is poised to cinch the Republican nomination. His lead is so dramatic. So it's going to be a short season. But by the time we vote on Super Tuesday, it'll all be pretty much over, it would seem to me. Democrat side of the equation, I will also admit that everybody, if there's no other real Democrat challenger who emerges, it looks like Biden will get the nomination. But I look at his numbers and I just shake my head. I just can't believe that Democrats are going to do that. I mean, I want to go against Biden. Don't get me wrong. I mean, for Republicans, one of the greatest things that could happen would be that Republicans would face Joe Biden as the Democrat nominee, because these numbers are appalling. But I can't imagine that they're going to let this happen. We'll see. This story from thehill.com. Former President Obama's senior advisor, David Axelrod. When David Axelrod speaks, you know he's pretty much spouting the Obama line. Said a recent Wall Street Journal poll showing President Biden's approval rating hitting a new low is, quote, very, very dark for Biden's reelection campaign. You know, job approval down, ratings generally down. Most of the comparatives with former President Trump not good. He said about 37% of responders in the Journal poll released Saturday said they approve of the job Biden is doing as president. 37%. You know, some polls have recently said that about 30% of Americans consider themselves to be Democrats. So the Democrats are saying, yeah, he's doing a good job. And they find a few smattering of people who also agree with that. But honestly, everybody else is saying, 61% of respondents had an unfavorable view of Joe Biden, not the way an incumbent wants to enter the election season. In a hypothetical matchup between Biden and Trump, who continues to lead in GOP primary polls, as we've just told you, Biden trailed the former president by 4 points, with 47% of respondents said they would vote for Trump and 43% say they would vote for Biden. Axelrod said he's most alarmed by the numbers regarding voters' perception of Biden's and Trump's policies. About 23% of the voters said Biden's policies have helped them. About 49% said the same of Trump's policies. 53% said Biden's policies hurt them personally. 37% said the same for Trump. You know what I worry about from a Biden standpoint is that they're the kinds of things when you get people are starting to rationalize their vote. Oh, look, they're ready to fire Biden. That's a problem. And they just put out another photo op with the Bidenomics sign next to him. That's right. They're still trying to convince Americans that Bidenomics is working for them when everybody knows. I mean, look, you may not be smart enough to know all of the things that are going on policy-wise that you agree and disagree with, but you know what your personal financial situation is, right? And everybody knows that inflation has been the problem. Inflation, runaway inflation. You add this up since he became president, 17.4%. And at that same time, effectively, wages have gone down about 2.9%. So there's a 20-point gap between where you were when Trump was president and where you are now under President Biden. You can feel that. 20%. Your wages have gone down a little bit and inflation has gone way up. You're in the whole 20%. So, I mean, it's very, very difficult environment for this president to run. Let's see, what else have I got here? Nikki Haley got a very important endorsement in New Hampshire, where she's coming in second right now. New Hampshire's popular Republican Governor Chris Sununu. Oh, no, that's just two news. Sununu endorsed former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley Tuesday night, a critical move that could invigorate the White House hopeful's campaign as he seeks to take on former President Donald Trump in the first-in-the-nation primary. Iowa's a caucus. New Hampshire's the first primary. It's unbelievable, Sununu said into a packed crowd in Manchester, describing Haley's momentum in the state. To see her out there, to see you're connecting with folks, to feel that momentum is real, and it's changeable, he says. Sununu decided against a presidential run of his own and has for months said he would back an alternative to Trump. Since then, he's been one of the busiest politicians on the campaign trail, attending countless town halls with Haley, DeSantis, and Chris Christie. Among the most popular Republican governors in the country, Sununu has urged flocks of voters packed into tiny diners, American Legion halls, and auditoriums across New Hampshire to get behind a winner who could beat President Joe Biden in a general election matchup. Well, I mean, that could be any Republican the way it's shaping up right now. I love New Hampshire. When I covered politics for Fox News, we'd go to Iowa, and then, boy, the New Hampshire primary is just a few days after the Iowa caucuses. And so, you're out there doing the coverage of Iowa, and you're covering all these different candidates who are going hither, thither, and yon, trying to, get votes. And then you cover the caucus. Maybe I remember I spent one at a church and watched people come in and cast their preferences for one candidate or another. It's fun to watch. Sometimes the candidates will actually show up. And that really works well for them, because if you show up, you got a place, you're probably going to win that particular caucus site. Then we get on a plane and fly immediately to New Hampshire. Both of them miserably cold this time of year. New Hampshire, first time I went to New Hampshire, the thing I noticed is the ground is frozen. My gosh. I mean, it's not just cold, it's frozen. You're walking basically on mud that's like ice. But you know what I loved about New Hampshire? The maple fudge.
Ooh.
I love the maple fudge.
That does sound delicious.
I ate a box full of it. It's 50 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios, and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, it's backed by, a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or call 615-851-1950.